Picture the Earth 4 billion years ago. No cities pierce the horizon. No human voices echo across valleys. The sun rises over an alien world of steaming oceans and volcanic skies, where lightning splits the atmosphere and primordial storms rage for centuries without witness. The continents drift like sleeping giants across a restless sea. Methane clouds swirl through an atmosphere thick with ammonia and hydrogen sulfide. In this forgotten dawn, life stirs in ways we can barely imagine. Strange chemistries bubble in thermal vents. Primitive organisms dance in tidal pools that span entire coastlines. Yet even in this seemingly barren world, something watches. Something waits. The rocks remember what we have forgotten. Embedded in ancient strata lie traces of beings that walked this earth long before first ancestors drew breath. These aren't the familiar fossils of dinosaurs or early mammals. These are older, stranger, more mysterious. Modern science tells us the story begins with simple cells, evolving over millions of years into complex organisms. But between the lines of this accepted narrative, gaps emerge. Unexplained jumps, sudden appearances. As if something guided the process from beyond our understanding. The Aboriginal peoples of Australia speak of the dream time when powerful beings shaped the land before humans existed. Hindu texts describe cycles of creation spanning millions of years, with different species ruling the earth in each epoch. Norse mythology tells of worlds that existed before our own, populated by giants and strange creatures. Were these merely stories? Or memories passed down through countless generations, preserving knowledge of Earth's true inhabitants? Consider the Precambrian rocks of Western Australia, where scientists have discovered microscopic structures that shouldn't exist, complex patterns that suggest intelligence, organization that defies natural explanation. These formations are older than the first known life forms, yet they display characteristics that speak of purpose and design. The Isua Greenstone Belt in Greenland holds similar mysteries. What if intelligence existed on Earth far earlier than we ever imagined? In the depths of South African gold mines, workers have uncovered strange spheres embedded in rock formations 2.8 billion years old. Perfect spheres with intricate grooves carved around their circumference. Natural processes don't create such precise geometric forms. Yet there they lie, buried in stone since before the first continents stabilized. The ocean tells its own story of forgotten inhabitants. Beneath miles of sediment on the ocean floor lie structures that don't match any known geological process. Perfectly circular formations, straight lines extending for hundreds of miles. Patterns that suggest construction rather than erosion. Meanwhile, in the Canadian Arctic, researchers have discovered microscopic tubes and filaments in rocks 4.28 billion years old. These structures resemble nothing found in nature today. They're too complex for simple chemical processes, too organized for random formation. They hint at forms of life that operated by rules we don't understand. The Earth's magnetic field holds secrets too. Paleomagnetic studies reveal periods when the planet's magnetic poles shifted dramatically, sometimes multiple times within short geological periods. These shifts would have created radiation storms that could eliminate most surface life. Yet something survived these catastrophes. Something adapted. Something thrived. Deep beneath the Antarctic ice sheet, Lake Vostok has remained sealed for millions of years. When scientists finally drilled through to sample its waters, they found microorganisms unlike anything on Earth's surface. These creatures exist in conditions that would kill conventional life. They process energy in ways that defy our understanding of biology. They represent forms of existence that predate everything we consider normal. As we stand on the threshold of this investigation, one question haunts the darkness. If Earth has been home to countless forms of life across billions of years, how many of those forms developed intelligence? How many built civilizations that rose and fell before the first human ancestor climbed down from the trees? The answer lies scattered across the globe in hints and whispers, in anomalous fossils, in unexplained structures, in myths that span every culture. The evidence suggests that we are not the first intelligent species to call this planet home. We may not even be the second or third. The forgotten dawn holds its secrets closely. But for those willing to look beyond accepted explanations, the traces remain, waiting to tell their story of the beings who came before us. The fossil record unfolds like pages in an ancient book, each layer revealing creatures that once ruled domains now buried beneath time. Mainstream paleontology traces a clear lineage from the first cellular life through the great diversification events that shaped our world. Yet within this narrative, strange chapters resist easy interpretation. In the Burgess Shale of British Columbia, fossils from 508 million years ago reveal creatures so bizarre that scientists initially could undetermine which end was the head. Hallucigenia walked on 7 pairs of spiny legs while bristling with defensive spikes. Anomalocaris, a meter-long predator, possessed grasping arms unlike anything that followed. Wiwaxia combined features of several different animal groups in ways that make no evolutionary sense. These weren't primitive experiments in body design. They were sophisticated organisms with complex nervous systems and specialized organs. They hunted, defended territories, and engaged in behaviors that required intelligence. Then they vanished, leaving no descendants and no explanation for their sudden disappearance. The Cambrian explosion itself presents a mystery that challenges conventional understanding. In a geological instant, roughly 10 million years, nearly every major animal group appeared simultaneously in the fossil record. No gradual transitions, no intermediate forms. Just a sudden flowering of complexity that seems to violate the principles of gradual evolution. Dr. Simon Conway Morris, one of the leading experts on Cambrian fossils, described the event as evolution's Big Bang. The phrase captures more than scientific enthusiasm. It suggests forces at work beyond natural selection and genetic drift. Forces that could accelerate development in ways we're only beginning to understand. Moving forward through deep time, the fossil record reveals other anomalies that don't fit standard models. In Devonian rocks from Scotland, paleontologists have discovered trackways that appear to be made by large bipedal creatures. The prints are too old for dinosaurs, too large for the amphibians of that era. Whatever made them walk upright across mudflats 385 million years ago, leaving behind evidence of locomotion that wouldn't reappear until much later in the fossil record. The Karoo Basin of South Africa tells an even stranger story. Among the abundant fossils of mammal-like reptiles from the Permian period, researchers have found specimens that display characteristics unprecedented for their time. Enlarged skull cavities suggesting advanced brain development, bone structures indicating the use of tools, dental patterns consistent with complex food processing. These findings challenge the timeline of intelligence on Earth. Conventional science places the emergence of sophisticated cognition much later, with the rise of mammals and eventually primates. But the Karoo fossils suggest that complex thought may have evolved multiple times in lineages that left no modern descendants. In the Morrison Formation of the American West, famous for its dinosaur fossils, paleontologists have uncovered traces of something else entirely. Between the layers containing Allosaurus and Brontosaurus remains lie beds filled with unusual artifacts. Stone tools too sophisticated for the crude mammals of the Jurassic period. Bone implements carved with geometric patterns that suggest symbolic thinking. The official explanation dismisses these finds as coincidental arrangements of natural materials. Wind and water, the argument goes, can create patterns that mimic intentional design. Yet the artifacts appear in multiple locations across hundreds of miles. They follow consistent design principles. They show signs of use wear, consistent with purposeful manipulation. Dr. Margaret Calder of the Museum of Northern Arizona has spent decades studying these anomalous finds. Her research reveals a distribution pattern that defies random placement. The artifacts cluster around fossil sites rich in large dinosaurs, suggesting a relationship between the toolmakers and the giant reptiles. Perhaps they were hunters. Perhaps they were shepherds. Perhaps they were something else entirely. The La Brea tar pits of Los Angeles preserve a different kind of mystery. Among the saber-toothed cats and dire wolves trapped in asphalt 50,000 years ago, researchers have found bones that don't belong to any known species. Humanoid remains with skulls too large and limb bones too robust for early humans. Carbon dating places them at the same age as the accepted fossils, yet their anatomy suggests capabilities far beyond primitive hunter-gatherers. These specimens display tool marks on their bones, indicating they used sophisticated implements. Chemical analysis reveals diets that included cooked foods and processed materials. Their teeth show patterns consistent with symbolic scarification or intentional modification. They lived complex social lives that required communication and planning. Meanwhile, in the caves of South Africa's cradle of humankind, paleontologists continue to uncover fossils that complicate the human family tree. Homo naledi, discovered in Rising Star Cave, possessed a mixture of primitive and advanced characteristics that don't fit any evolutionary timeline. Their hands were capable of precision grip needed for tool use, yet their brains were smaller than those of much earlier hominins. The dating of these fossils creates additional puzzles. At 236,000 to 335,000 years old, Homo naledi lived alongside early Homo sapiens, yet their anatomy suggests a much more ancient lineage. They appear to have practiced deliberate burial of their dead, a behavior associated with symbolic thinking and spiritual beliefs. How could such cognitively advanced beings maintain primitive physical characteristics for millions of years? Dr. Lee Berger, who led the Naledi excavations, describes the discovery as the most primitive human ancestor to intentionally dispose of its dead. The implications extend beyond archaeology into questions about the nature of intelligence itself. If multiple human species developed complex behaviors independently, what drove these parallel evolutionary paths? As we trace the fossil record forward toward more recent times, the anomalies multiply rather than resolve. Each new discovery adds layers to mysteries that conventional science struggles to explain. The bones tell stories of intelligence emerging earlier, evolving faster, and spreading wider than our models predict. The question becomes not whether pre-human intelligences existed, but how many different forms they took. The fossils suggest a planet where consciousness arose repeatedly, in lineages that explored different solutions to the challenges of existence. Some left descendants. Others vanished without successors. All left traces for those willing to see beyond the accepted narrative. Evolution, as taught in textbooks, unfolds as a gradual process of small changes, accumulating over vast periods of time. One species slowly transforms into another through countless intermediate steps. The fossil record should overflow with transitional forms, the famous missing links that connect every branch of life as family tree. Yet the deeper scientists dig, the more gaps they discover. Not small spaces between closely related species, but vast chasms where entire evolutionary leaps occurred without apparent cause. These discontinuities suggest that the story of life on Earth follows patterns more complex than gradual change can explain. The origin of flight presents one such puzzle. Mainstream science proposes that birds evolved from ground-dwelling dinosaurs through a series of intermediate forms. Small theropods developed feathers for insulation, then extended these structures for display, and finally modified them for powered flight. The transition should have required millions of years and countless evolutionary steps. Instead, the fossil record reveals fully formed flying birds appearing suddenly in Jurassic deposits. Archaeopteryx possessed sophisticated flight feathers, hollow bones for weight reduction, and a furcula for muscle attachment, all the complex adaptations needed for powered flight. No convincing intermediates preceded it. No gradual accumulation of flight-related features can be traced through earlier fossils. Dr. Allen Fiducia of the University of North Carolina has argued for decades that birds evolved from earlier archosaurs, not from dinosaurs at all. His analysis of bone microstructure and developmental patterns suggests that avian flight arose independently, through mechanisms that operated faster than conventional evolution allows. The implications extend beyond ornithology into questions about evolutionary processes themselves. Consider the emergence of echolocation in bats and marine mammals. This sophisticated biological sonar requires precise coordination between sound production, neural processing, and behavioral responses. Dolphins must generate ultrasonic clicks, process the returning echoes, and construct detailed mental maps of their environment, all while swimming at high speeds through three-dimensional space. The fossil record provides no intermediate stages in this development. Early whale fossils show terrestrial mammals with normal mammalian hearing. Later specimens display fully developed echolocation systems with all the necessary anatomical modifications. The transformation appears to have occurred rapidly, without the gradual accumulation of intermediate forms that standard evolutionary theory requires. Bats present an even more dramatic example. The earliest bat fossils from Eocene deposits in Wyoming show animals with complete flight capability and sophisticated echolocation. No preceding fossils display the intermediate stages between ground-dwelling mammals and aerial hunters. The entire transformation wings, echolocation, and the behavioral patterns to coordinate them appears to have emerged as an integrated system. The human brain poses perhaps the greatest mystery of rapid evolution. 3 million years ago, our ancestors possessed brains roughly 1/3 the size of modern humans. Archaeological evidence suggests they lived in small groups, used simple stone tools, and followed behavioral patterns similar to modern great apes. By 100,000 years ago, humans had developed brains indistinguishable from our own in size and complexity. They created sophisticated art, practiced symbolic burial rituals, and developed technologies that required long-term planning and abstract reasoning. The transformation occurred in less than 3 million years, a geological instant for such dramatic cognitive advancement. Dr. Richard Klein of Stanford University has proposed that this change resulted from a single genetic mutation that reorganized neural development. He calls it the Great Leap Forward and argues that it occurred around 50,000 years ago. The mutation, according to Klein's hypothesis, suddenly endowed humans with modern cognitive abilities, including language, artistic expression, and symbolic thought. Such rapid transformation challenges core assumptions about evolutionary processes. Random mutations typically produce small changes that accumulate slowly over time. Major reorganizations of complex systems usually prove fatal rather than beneficial. Yet human cognitive evolution appears to have occurred through precisely this kind of dramatic leap. The eye represents another evolutionary puzzle that has challenged scientists since Darwin's time. This organ requires dozens of coordinated components lenses, iris, retina, optic nerve, and processing centers in the brain. All must function together, or the system provides no advantage. How could such complexity arise through gradual steps? Standard explanations invoke scenarios where light-sensitive patches slowly developed into cup eyes, then pinhole cameras, and finally lens-based systems. Each intermediate stage supposedly provided some advantage over the previous form. Yet fossil evidence for these transitions remains elusive, and computer models suggest the process would require more time than life has existed on Earth. Meanwhile, molecular studies reveal that complex eyes evolved independently dozens of times in different lineages. Vertebrates, arthropods, mollusks, and cnidarians all developed sophisticated visual systems with similar capabilities, but different underlying structures. The convergent evolution suggests powerful forces driving rapid development of complex sensory organs. The bacterial flagellum presents a microscopic example of the same phenomenon. This molecular motor consists of dozens of protein components arranged in a structure that rotates at thousands of revolutions per minute. Like the eye, it requires all components to function together, or the system provides no benefit. Dr. Michael Bay of Lehigh University has argued that such irreducibly complex systems cannot evolve through gradual steps. His work has sparked fierce debate in scientific circles, with critics proposing various scenarios for stepwise development. Yet none of these proposals has been demonstrated experimentally, and the molecular evidence suggests the flagellar motor arose as an integrated unit. These examples point toward evolutionary processes that operate differently than conventional theory predicts. Instead of gradual change through small steps, life appears to undergo periodic bursts of rapid innovation. New forms emerge suddenly, with complex systems appearing fully developed rather than evolving through intermediate stages. The pattern resembles what paleontologists call punctuated equilibrium, long periods of stasis interrupted by brief episodes of rapid change. But even this modified view of evolution struggles to explain the speed and scope of some transformations. The gaps in the fossil record may not represent missing evidence, but missing time moments when evolution accelerated beyond its normal pace. As we examine these mysteries, a disturbing possibility emerges. Perhaps evolution doesn't always proceed through blind chance and natural selection. Perhaps intelligence, whether internal or external, sometimes guides the process toward specific outcomes. The missing links may be missing, not because fossils haven't been found, but because the transitions they represent operated through mechanisms that science is only beginning to understand. Across cultures separated by oceans and centuries, stories persist of giants who once walked the earth. Norse mythology speaks of the Jotun, massive beings who preceded the gods. Greek traditions describe titans who ruled before Zeus claimed dominion. Hindu texts chronicle Daityas and Danavas, colossal races that battled divine forces across cosmic ages. These weren't mere fantasies born from primitive imagination. Archaeological evidence suggests that enormous humanoid beings once inhabited our planet, leaving behind traces that challenge our understanding of prehistoric life. The fossil record preserves remains of creatures whose size defies explanation through conventional evolutionary processes. In 1833, soldiers digging at Lompoc Rancho in California unearthed a skeleton measuring over 12 feet in length. The remains displayed human characteristics, but with proportions that suggested incredible strength and stature. Local Chumash Indians identified the bones as belonging to the ancient giants their oral traditions described. The skeleton was reportedly reburied, but not before detailed measurements were recorded by multiple witnesses. Similar discoveries have emerged from locations across North America. In 1856, workers in East Wheeling, West Virginia, uncovered a burial mound containing skeletons ranging from 7 to 12 feet tall. The bones showed signs of deliberate interment, with copper artifacts and shell ornaments arranged around the bodies. Local newspaper accounts describe skulls with prominent brow ridges and robust build that differed markedly from contemporary human populations. The Ohio Valley has yielded numerous reports of giant remains throughout the 19th century. The Charleston Gazette documented the discovery of a 9-foot skeleton in 1883, while the Cincinnati Commercial Tribune reported multiple finds of 7 to 10-foot remains in various mounds. These accounts include detailed measurements and witness testimony from respected community members, including physicians and clergy. Dr. G.P. Donahue, former Pennsylvania state historian, published accounts of giant skeletons discovered throughout the state. His records describe remains measuring 8 to 11 feet, often found in association with large copper axes and other artifacts sized for beings of enormous stature. The consistency of these reports across different excavation sites suggests a widespread population of giant humanoids. The Smithsonian Institution's early reports contain references to numerous giant skeleton discoveries. In 1888, the Bureau of Ethnology documented several finds of oversized remains from mound sites across the Midwest. These official records describe skeletons with skull circumferences far exceeding modern human parameters and bone thickness indicating extraordinary muscular development. Yet today, most of these specimens have vanished from museum collections. Official explanations cite storage limitations, deterioration, or reclassification as misidentified animal remains. Critics argue that a systematic effort has removed evidence that contradicts accepted anthropological timelines. The missing specimens fuel speculation about deliberate suppression of anomalous discoveries. International evidence supports the North American findings. In Ecuador, Father Carlos Vaca discovered massive bone fragments in the Changamines River Valley. Analysis by experts, including Dr. Gustav von Koningswald, suggested the remains belonged to humans of enormous stature. The bones displayed characteristics consistent with a skeleton 12 to 15 feet tall. Australia's Blue Mountains region has yielded similar discoveries. In 1895, workers found fossilized human teeth and jawbones of gigantic proportions. The dental remains were 3 times larger than modern human teeth, suggesting beings with correspondingly massive skulls and bodies. Aboriginal traditions describe the bunyip and other giant beings that inhabited the continent before modern peoples arrived. The Nephilim of biblical tradition may preserve memories of these ancient giants. Hebrew texts describe the sons of God taking human wives and producing offspring who became mighty men of old, men of renown. The Book of Numbers specifically mentions giants among the inhabitants of Canaan, describing them as descendants of Anak, who made the Israelites appear like grasshoppers. Mesopotamian texts provide additional corroboration. The Epic of Gilgamesh describes the hero king as standing 11 cubits tall, roughly 17 feet. Sumerian king lists record rulers with extraordinary lifespans and physical characteristics that suggest non-human origins. The Anunnaki, described as beings who came from the sky, are consistently portrayed as giants who interbred with humanity. Modern discoveries continue to challenge conventional understanding. In Romania, archaeologists have uncovered skeletons at Roja Montana that display anomalous characteristics. The remains show extreme elongation of the skull and limb bones, with overall heights estimated between 8 and 10 feet. Carbon dating places these specimens at 3,500 to 5,000 years old, within recorded history yet outside accepted human variation. The Atacama Desert of Chile has preserved naturally mummified remains of unusual beings. While most specimens represent normal-sized humans, some display characteristics that suggest extraordinary stature and non-human features. The dry climate has maintained soft tissues that reveal anatomical details typically lost in fossilization. Genetic analysis of ancient remains has revealed unexpected diversity in human populations. DNA extracted from Denisovan fossils shows that this extinct human relative was significantly larger and more robust than modern humans. Reconstructions based on bone fragments suggest individuals reaching 7 to 8 feet in height with massive muscular development. The Paracas culture of Peru left behind elongated skulls that have puzzled researchers for decades. These specimens display cranial volumes up to 25% larger than modern humans, with bone thickness and structural modifications that appear to represent a distinct human variant. Genetic analysis has revealed unusual DNA sequences that don't match any known human population. Environmental factors may have contributed to gigantism in ancient populations. Higher atmospheric oxygen levels during certain geological periods could have supported larger body sizes in all organisms. Gravitational variations while controversial, might have influenced the development of massive skeletal structures that appear throughout the fossil record. The biblical account of antediluvian longevity correlates with reports of giant stature among early humans. If atmospheric conditions or other environmental factors supported both extended lifespans and increased growth, the combination could have produced populations of giants that dominated prehistoric landscapes. As we examine the evidence for ancient giants, patterns emerge that suggest these beings weren't anomalies, but representatives of distinct human populations. Their widespread distribution and consistent characteristics across different continents indicate migrations and interactions that predate accepted human dispersal timelines. The giants left their mark not only in bones and artifacts, but in the genetic memory of humanity itself. Every culture preserves stories of these enormous ancestors, suggesting that contact between giants and modern humans continued into historical times. The evidence points toward a world where multiple human species coexisted, with the giants representing the most physically impressive members of our extended family tree. In the shadows between accepted human ancestors and modern Homo sapiens, other species once walked the earth. These weren't the familiar Neanderthals or recently discovered Denisovans, but beings that lived alongside our ancestors while following their own evolutionary paths. They left traces in our DNA, hints in archaeological sites, and whispers in ancient myths that speak of encounters with the others. DNA analysis has revolutionized our understanding of human ancestry, revealing that our genome carries fragments from multiple extinct human species. The standard narrative describes interbreeding between Homo sapiens, Neanderthals, and Denisovans as isolated populations encountered each other during prehistoric migrations. Yet genetic studies indicate additional contributions from unknown sources, shadow species that left their mark in our chromosomes before vanishing from the fossil record. Dr. David Reich of Harvard Medical School has identified what he terms ghost populations in human DNA. These genetic signatures represent extinct human species that contributed to modern ancestry but left no fossil remains for scientists to study. The phantom lineages appear most prominently in the genomes of Papuan and Australian Aboriginal populations, suggesting that multiple human species inhabited Southeast Asia and Oceania during the Pleistocene. The ex-woman of Denisova Cave represents one such shadow species. Initially known only from a single finger bone and 2 teeth, this hominin possessed DNA sequences so distinct that scientists created an entirely new taxonomic category. Subsequent analysis revealed that Denisovans interbred extensively with both Neanderthals and modern humans, creating hybrid populations whose descendants survive today. Yet even the Denisovan genome carries traces of earlier interbreeding events. Analysis indicates that Denisovans encountered and bred with at least one additional archaic human species before their own extinction. This unknown lineage contributed roughly 5% to the Denisovan gene pool, representing a population that existed for hundreds of thousands of years without leaving direct fossil evidence. The Red Deer Cave people of China present another example of shadow species persistence into recent times. These humans possessed an unusual mixture of ancient and modern characteristics, with skulls that displayed prominent brow ridges, projecting faces, and brain sizes smaller than contemporary Homo sapiens. Yet they lived as recently as 11,500 years ago, making them among the last surviving archaic humans. Dr. Darren Curnow of the University of New South Wales has argued that the Red Deer Cave people represent a previously unknown human species that survived in isolation long after other archaic humans went extinct. Their tool technology and evidence of cooking suggest sophisticated cultural behaviors despite their primitive anatomy. They appear to have lived alongside modern humans without fully integrating into contemporary populations. Africa, the acknowledged birthplace of humanity, harbors its own shadow species mysteries. The Iwo Eleru cranium from Nigeria displays characteristics that don't match any known human population. Dated to 13,000 years ago, the skull combines features of ancient Homo erectus with modern human traits in ways that suggest either extreme evolutionary conservatism or hybridization between divergent human lineages. Similar anomalous remains have emerged from other African sites. The Lukenya Hill fossils from Kenya show evidence of multiple human populations with different anatomical characteristics living in the same region during the late Pleistocene. Some specimens display robust, archaic features, while others appear fully modern, suggesting that human evolution in Africa followed multiple parallel tracks rather than a single progressive sequence. The Skull and Kafsia caves in Israel preserve evidence of early modern humans who possessed larger brains and more robust skeletons than their contemporary populations. These specimens, dating to 120,000 years ago, represent some of the earliest known Homo sapiens outside of Africa. Yet their anatomy suggests admixture with unknown human species that possessed characteristics not found in the African ancestral populations. Genetic analysis of modern Middle Eastern populations reveals additional evidence of shadow species contributions. Certain DNA markers appear at frequencies that cannot be explained through known patterns of human migration and interbreeding. These genetic signatures suggest that multiple human species inhabited the region during the crucial period when modern humans first expanded out of Africa. The hobbits of Flores Island, Homo floresiensis, represent perhaps the most dramatic example of shadow species survival into recent times. These tiny humans, standing barely 3 feet tall, lived on an Indonesian island until approximately 50,000 years ago. They possessed brains smaller than chimpanzees, yet manufactured sophisticated stone tools and hunted large game in coordinated groups. The discovery of Homo floresiensis challenged fundamental assumptions about human evolution. These weren't degenerate modern humans suffering from genetic disorders, but representatives of an ancient human lineage that had survived in isolation for hundreds of thousands of years. They developed their own unique solutions to environmental challenges while maintaining tool-making traditions that paralleled those of much larger human species. Recent discoveries have revealed additional dwarf human species in the Philippines and other Southeast Asian islands. Homo luzonensis from the Philippines displays characteristics similar to Homo floresiensis, but with anatomical features that suggest independent dwarfing evolution. These island populations indicate that multiple human species underwent parallel adaptations to similar environmental pressures. The persistence of shadow species into recent times raises questions about their interactions with expanding Homo sapiens populations. Archaeological evidence suggests that different human species sometimes occupied overlapping territories without competing directly. They may have developed different ecological niches, technological specializations, or social structures that allowed coexistence for extended periods. Mythology and folklore from around the world preserve descriptions of encounters between modern humans and other human-like beings. The European wild man tradition, Asian Yeti legends, and Native American Sasquatch stories share common elements that suggest observations of actual creatures rather than purely imaginary beings. These accounts often describe beings that display human intelligence, but differ significantly in physical characteristics and behavior. Dr. Grover Krantz of Washington State University spent decades investigating Sasquatch reports from a scientific perspective. His analysis of footprint casts and eyewitness accounts led him to conclude that a large primate species inhabited the Pacific Northwest. While mainstream science rejected his conclusions, recent DNA studies have identified known primate sequences in samples from alleged Sasquatch encounter sites. The possibility that shadow species survived into historical times gained support from genetic analysis of remote human populations. Indigenous groups in the Amazon, Papua New Guinea, and other isolated regions carry DNA markers that don't match any known human migration patterns. These genetic signatures may represent recent admixture with shadow species that survived longer than previously thought possible. As we examine the evidence for shadow species, a complex picture emerges of human evolution as a branching tree rather than a linear progression. Multiple human species coexisted for hundreds of thousands of years, interbreeding occasionally, but maintaining distinct identities and characteristics. Modern humans represent the last surviving branch of this diverse human family, carrying within our genomes the genetic legacy of all the others who came before. Before written history began, human cultures across the globe developed remarkably similar stories about the beings who came before them. These weren't primitive fantasies or simple creation myths, but detailed accounts that preserved memories of actual encounters with non-human intelligences. The consistency of these traditions across isolated cultures suggests they may contain historical truth disguised as mythology. Australian Aboriginal Dreamtime stories describe the rainbow serpent and other powerful beings who shaped the landscape before humans arrived. These creation ancestors possessed abilities that transcended normal physical limitations. They could transform into animals, manipulate the elements, and traverse vast distances instantaneously. The beings established the laws that would govern both the natural world and human society before departing for other realms. The Arenti people of Central Australia maintain detailed oral histories that extend back over 40,000 years. Their stories describe the Altshira, the supreme creator being, and numerous other ancestral spirits who established sacred sites throughout the continent. These beings weren't gods in the conventional sense, but rather advanced entities who possessed knowledge and abilities far exceeding those of early humans. Dr. Lynn Kelly of La Trobe University has studied Aboriginal oral traditions for their potential historical accuracy. Her research reveals that these stories contain precise geographical and astronomical information that has been verified through independent scientific investigation. If the geographical details proved accurate, she argues, the anthropological content may be equally reliable. The Hopi speak of the ant people who sheltered their ancestors during global catastrophes. These underground dwellers possessed advanced technology and knowledge that they shared selectively with chosen humans. The ant people are described as intelligent, industrious beings who built vast subterranean cities that connected across enormous distances. The Lakota tradition describes the star people who came from the sky during the early days of human existence. These beings taught important skills including agriculture, astronomy, and spiritual practices before returning to their celestial homes. Physical descriptions of the star people emphasize their unusual height, ethereal appearance, and ability to manipulate matter through mental concentration. Peruvian and Bolivian cultures preserve memories of the Viracocha and other pre-Incan civilizers. These beings emerged from Lake Titicaca and spread across South America, teaching architecture, agriculture, and astronomical knowledge to primitive human populations. They are consistently described as tall, fair-skinned beings with advanced technological capabilities who could cut and move massive stone blocks using unknown methods. The Nazca lines and other geoglyphs scattered across South America may represent communication systems created for these sky beings. The designs are only clearly visible from altitudes that pre-Columbian cultures supposedly never achieved. Yet the precision and scale of these works suggest they were created by beings who could observe and direct construction from aerial perspectives. Mesopotamian texts provide some of the earliest written accounts of encounters between humans and pre-human intelligences. The Sumerian king list describes rulers who reigned for impossibly long periods before a great flood disrupted civilization. These antediluvian kings are said to have received their authority and knowledge directly from the Anunnaki, beings who came from the sky to establish order on Earth. The Epic of Gilgamesh preserves detailed, descriptions of these interactions. Enkidu, the wild man created by the gods, represents a bridge between human and non-human consciousness. His initial state living among animals with superhuman strength and his gradual humanization through contact with civilization suggest memories of actual beings who existed between human and divine realms. Hindu traditions describe multiple cycles of creation in which different species achieved dominance over Earth. The Puranas chronicle the Nagas, serpent beings with human intelligence who ruled vast underground kingdoms. These entities possessed advanced knowledge of metallurgy, architecture, and spiritual sciences that they occasionally shared with worthy human students. The Ramayana and Mahabharata contain descriptions of vimanas, flying vehicles operated by various non-human species. These craft could travel between Earth and celestial realms, suggesting technologies that operated through principles unknown to ancient human civilizations. The detailed technical descriptions of these vehicles include specifications for construction materials, propulsion systems, and navigational methods. Egyptian texts describe the Neteru, beings who ruled Egypt during the Zep Tepi or first time before human pharaohs established dynastic rule. These entities possessed characteristics that combined human intelligence with non-human abilities. They could take various physical forms, lived for extended periods, and maintained direct communication with cosmic forces that governed universal order. The pyramid texts, among the oldest religious writings known, contain references to the pharaoh's transformation into these divine beings after death. The process involves specific knowledge and technologies that suggest actual procedures rather than symbolic descriptions. The texts imply that certain humans could achieve the enhanced capabilities of the Neteru through proper preparation and ritual. Chinese mythology describes the dragon kings and other powerful entities who ruled during the earliest epochs of human history. These beings controlled weather, rivers, and agricultural cycles while maintaining sophisticated cities in underwater and underground realms. They are consistently portrayed as benevolent teachers who shared knowledge with humans while maintaining their own separate civilization. The I Ching and other ancient Chinese texts contain references to the former kings who established the fundamental patterns that govern both human society and natural processes. These beings possessed deep understanding of cosmic principles that allowed them to create harmonious relationships between different levels of existence. Celtic traditions describe the Tuatha De Danann, a race of beings with advanced magical and technological abilities who ruled Ireland before the arrival of human populations. These entities possessed 4 magical treasures that provided mastery over different aspects of reality. When humans finally arrived, the Tuatha De Danann retreated to underground realms where they continued to influence human affairs through careful intervention. Nordic sagas describe interactions between humans and various non-human species, including the Gyr, Vanir, and different types of giants. These beings possessed extended lifespans, advanced knowledge, and abilities that enabled them to manipulate both physical matter and spiritual forces. The stories suggest that humans developed their own capabilities through learning from these more advanced entities. Dr. David Lewis Williams of the University of the Witwatersrand has argued that many mythological accounts preserve memories of altered states of consciousness rather than encounters with actual beings. His research into shamanic traditions suggests that consistent cross-cultural elements reflect universal features of human neurological experiences during trance states. However, alternative researchers point out that mythological consistency extends beyond psychological universals to include specific technical and historical details that vary between cultures. The precision of geographical, astronomical, and technological information suggests that these traditions preserve memories of actual events rather than purely psychological experiences. As we examine these global traditions, patterns emerge that suggest genuine historical content preserved within mythological frameworks. The beings described share characteristics that indicate advanced technological capabilities, extended lifespans, and knowledge systems that exceeded those of contemporary human cultures. Their interactions with early humans appear to have shaped both physical and cultural evolution in ways that influenced all subsequent human development. Scattered across the globe stand monuments that challenge everything we believe about prehistoric human capabilities. These aren't the familiar pyramids of Egypt or the classical temples of Greece, but far older structures that display engineering sophistication that seems impossible for their supposed builders. The precision of their construction, the massive scale of their stones, and the advanced astronomical alignments they embody suggest that their creators possessed knowledge and technology that mainstream archaeology has yet to acknowledge. Göbekli Tepe in southeastern Turkey represents perhaps the most revolutionary archaeological discovery of the modern era. This temple complex, built over 11,000 years ago, predates Stonehenge by 6 millennia and the Egyptian pyramids by 7. At a time when conventional history places human civilization in its infancy, small bands of hunter-gatherers just beginning to experiment with agriculture, someone erected massive stone pillars weighing up to 20 tons and carved them with sophisticated artistic reliefs. The site consists of at least 20 circular enclosures, each containing enormous T-shaped pillars arranged in precise geometric patterns. The pillars display carvings of animals, abstract symbols, and anthropomorphic figures that demonstrate advanced artistic capabilities. The overall design reveals understanding of complex architectural principles, including structural engineering, drainage systems, and astronomical alignment. Dr. Klaus Schmidt, who led excavations at Göbekli Tepe for decades, concluded that the site required organized labor forces and sophisticated planning that should and have existed in Neolithic society. The construction would have demanded coordination between hundreds of workers, advanced stone-working techniques, and logistical systems to transport massive blocks across difficult terrain. Yet perhaps most puzzling is the site's deliberate burial around 8000 BCE. Someone carefully covered the entire complex with tons of earth, preserving it perfectly but removing it from use. This wasn't gradual abandonment or natural burial through sedimentation, but an intentional act that required as much effort as the original construction. Nan Madol in Micronesia presents equally challenging questions about prehistoric construction capabilities. This artificial archipelago consists of nearly 100 man-made islands constructed from massive basalt logs stacked in precise patterns. The largest blocks weigh over 50 tons, yet the builders somehow transported them across water and raised them to heights of 40 feet without cranes or other heavy machinery. The Pohnpeian oral tradition credits the construction to 2 sorcerer brothers who used magic to fly the massive stones into place. While mainstream archaeology dismisses such accounts as mythology, no conventional explanation adequately addresses the logistical challenges of Nan Madol's construction. The basalt quarry lies on the opposite side of the island, separated by miles of dense jungle and treacherous waters. Radiocarbon dating places Nan Madol's construction between 1180 and 1200 CE, but this represents only the most recent building phase. Earlier construction phases may extend back thousands of years, making the site far older than its official timeline suggests. The artificial islands rest on natural coral foundations that show signs of modification and enhancement over extended periods. Sacsayhuaman in Peru demonstrates stone cutting and placement techniques that modern engineers struggle to comprehend. The fortress walls consist of massive limestone blocks weighing up to 200 tons, cut and fitted together with such precision that knife blades cannot slide between joints. The blocks display no tool marks that would indicate the methods used to shape them, and their irregular, polygonal shapes create interlocking patterns that provide earthquake resistance. Local Inca traditions claim they inherited Sacsayhuaman from much earlier builders. The Incas possessed sophisticated stone-working capabilities, but they readily admitted that certain structures exceeded their own abilities. Spanish conquistadors reported that Inca architects could not explain how the largest stones were cut, moved, or positioned. Recent analysis using ground-penetrating radar has revealed that Sacsayhuaman extends much deeper underground than previously known. The visible walls represent only a small fraction of a much larger complex that includes underground chambers, tunnels, and additional construction levels. The full scope of the site suggests a building project that spanned centuries and involved far greater resources than Inca civilization could have marshaled. The Easter Island Moai present another example of prehistoric engineering capabilities that exceed conventional understanding. Nearly 1,000 massive stone statues dot the island, with the largest standing figures reaching 33 feet in height and weighing up to 82 tons. The statues display sophisticated carving techniques and were somehow transported across the island from a central quarry to their final positions. Polynesian oral traditions describe the Moai as walking to their destinations under their own power. While mainstream archaeology interprets this metaphorically, recent experiments have shown that the statues' design includes features that would facilitate upright transportation through coordinated rocking motions. The builders may have developed techniques that allowed small teams to move enormous weights across considerable distances. The abandoned Moai at Rano Raraku Quarry reveal additional mysteries. These statues, partially buried by centuries of sedimentation, actually extend much deeper underground than their visible heads suggest. Excavations have uncovered complete bodies with detailed carving extending well below the current ground surface, indicating that the island's surface level has risen dramatically since the statues were erected. Pumapunku in Bolivia showcases precision stone cutting that rivals modern machine work. The andesite and diorite blocks display perfectly flat surfaces, precise right angles, and complex geometric shapes that would challenge contemporary stonemasons using power tools. Many blocks feature interlocking patterns that require precise measurements and planning to achieve proper fit. The site's construction techniques remain completely mysterious. Andesite ranks among the hardest stones on Earth, requiring diamond-tipped tools to cut effectively. Yet Pumapunku's builders achieved results that equal or exceed modern precision using methods that left no trace in the archaeological record. The cuts show no tool marks, suggesting techniques that mainstream archaeology cannot explain. Dr. Arthur Posnanski spent decades studying Tiwanaku and Pumapunku, concluding that astronomical alignments at the sites corresponded to celestial positions from much earlier periods than accepted dating allows. His calculations suggested that the temples were designed when the Earth's axial tilt differed from current values, implying construction dates extending back tens of thousands of years. The Yanaguni Monument off the coast of Japan presents evidence of sophisticated construction techniques applied to underwater sites. This massive stone structure displays clear signs of artificial modification, including straight edges, right angles, and carved channels that create geometric patterns. The monument's design includes staircases, terraces, and what appear to be architectural features carved from solid bedrock. Dr. Masahaki Kimura of the University of the Ryukyus has spent decades studying the monument, concluding that it represents artificial construction rather than natural geological formation. Tool marks visible on the stone surfaces indicate human modification, while the overall design follows architectural principles that suggest deliberate planning and execution. The monument's current depth indicates that it was constructed when sea levels stood much lower than today, placing its creation at least 12,000 years ago during the last ice age. This timeline places sophisticated architectural capabilities in prehistoric Japan, thousands of years before conventional history acknowledges advanced civilization in the region. As we examine these forgotten ruins, patterns emerge that suggest their builders possessed knowledge and capabilities far exceeding those attributed to prehistoric human cultures. The precision of their construction, the sophistication of their engineering, and the advanced astronomical alignments they embody point towards civilizations that operated according to principles we're only beginning to understand. These structures weren't built by primitive peoples using simple tools and brute force. They represent the achievements of sophisticated builders who possessed advanced knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, engineering, and construction techniques that have since been lost to history. Beneath 2/3 of our planet's surface lies the greatest archaeological frontier on Earth. Ocean floor holds secrets that could revolutionize our understanding of prehistoric civilization. Yet less than 20% of the seafloor has been mapped with the same detail we've achieved for the surface of Mars. In those explored depths, however, discoveries continue to emerge that suggest advanced civilizations once thrived where now only fish and darkness reign. During the last ice age, sea levels stood nearly 400 feet lower than today. Vast continental shelves that now lie underwater were dry land, potentially supporting cities, trade routes, and civilizations that vanished beneath the waves when the ice sheets melted. If advanced human cultures existed during the Pleistocene, their remains would now rest under miles of ocean, preserved in conditions that terrestrial sites could never match. The Bimini Road in the Bahamas provides a tantalizing glimpse of what may lie hidden in shallow waters around the world. Discovered in 1968 by marine archaeologist Dr. J. Manson Valentine, this underwater formation consists of massive rectangular limestone blocks arranged in what appears to be a constructed roadway or wall extending for over half a mile along the ocean floor. The blocks display characteristics that suggest artificial placement rather than natural formation. They're arranged in straight lines with consistent spacing, and their rectangular shapes show signs of deliberate shaping. Some blocks measure over 15 feet in length and display right-angled corners that would be extraordinary natural stone formations. The structure's alignment follows geometric patterns that suggest purposeful design. Mainstream geology explains the Bimini Road as a natural formation created by fracturing in the limestone bedrock. Critics point out, however, that the blocks rest on sand rather than bedrock, indicating they were transported from their original location. Carbon dating of organisms growing on the stones suggests they've been in their current position for at least 12,000 years, placing their formation at the end of the last ice age. Off the coast of India, marine archaeologists have discovered submerged structures near Dwarka that may represent remains of a legendary city described in Hindu texts. The Mahabharata describes Dwarka as a magnificent city built on the sea, with advanced architecture and engineering that made it one of the wonders of the ancient world. According to the epic, the city was eventually submerged by the ocean, preserving it beneath the waves. Dr. S.R. Rao of the Marine Archaeology Center has led expeditions that have identified massive stone blocks, walls, and what appear to be architectural remains on the seafloor near modern Dwarka. The structures display construction techniques similar to those found at terrestrial archaeological sites, attributed to advanced ancient civilizations. Pottery shards and other artifacts recovered from the site date to periods that align with traditional accounts of the city's existence. The discoveries near Dwarka suggest that ancient Indian civilization may have been far more advanced and extensive than previously recognized. If the submerged structures represent genuine architectural remains, they indicate that sophisticated urban planning and construction techniques existed in the region thousands of years earlier than conventional history acknowledges. In the Mediterranean, sonar surveys have identified anomalous structures on the seafloor that don't match known geological formations. Near the island of Cyprus, researchers have discovered what appear to be straight walls, rectangular foundations, and geometric patterns that suggest artificial construction. The structures lie at depths that would place their construction during periods when sea levels stood much lower than today. Similar discoveries have been reported from locations around the world. Off the coast of Japan, in addition to the Yonaguni Monument, divers have identified multiple underwater structures that display signs of artificial modification. These formations include step terraces, straight walls, and carved channels that create geometric patterns in the bedrock. The Japanese underwater sites are particularly significant because they occur in seismically active areas where natural forces would typically destroy artificial structures over time. The preservation of apparent architectural features suggests either recent construction or building techniques, sophisticated enough to withstand thousands of years of earthquakes and ocean currents. Cuba's western coastline has yielded sonar images of structures that appear to be pyramids, roads, and other architectural features lying on the ocean floor at depths of over 2,000 feet. The formations display geometric characteristics that suggest artificial construction, including straight lines, right angles, and symmetrical patterns that would be extraordinary in natural formations. Dr. Paulina Zilitsky, who led the Cuban explorations, described the sonar images as showing a wonderful city, with structures that resemble pyramid complexes found in terrestrial archaeological sites. The extreme depth of these formations would place their construction at time periods when no known civilization possessed the necessary capabilities, challenging fundamental assumptions about human technological development. The Azores Plateau in the Atlantic Ocean has produced evidence of ancient human activity in areas now far underwater. Portuguese researchers have discovered what appear to be stone tools and pottery fragments in sediment cores taken from the ocean floor. If confirmed as artificial artifacts, these discoveries would indicate human presence in the Atlantic at times when the area was dry land. Ancient maps provide intriguing hints about lost civilizations that may have existed before rising sea levels submerged them. The Piri Reis map of 1513 shows Antarctica's coastline with accuracy that should not have been possible until modern exploration revealed the continents as features beneath the ice sheet. The map appears to be based on much older sources that preserve knowledge of geography from times when ice levels were dramatically different. Similarly, the Orontius Phineas map of 1531 displays Antarctica with internal features, including rivers and mountains that match the actual topography beneath the current ice sheet. The level of detail suggests that the original sources for these maps were created by people who could observe and map Antarctica when it was not covered by ice. A condition that last existed over 6,000 years ago. Plato's account of Atlantis describes the advanced maritime civilization that existed beyond the Pillars of Hercules and was eventually submerged by the ocean. While most scholars consider Atlantis a philosophical allegory, the consistency of Plato's geographical and technical details has led some researchers to propose that the account preserves memories of actual prehistoric civilizations. Dr. Robert Ballard, who discovered the Titanic, has argued that rising sea levels at the end of the Ice Age would have submerged vast areas of human habitation. His research in the Black Sea has identified evidence of catastrophic flooding that matches the timeline and scale described in flood myths from around the world. The event would have destroyed extensive coastal civilizations and forced massive migrations inland. The implications of underwater archaeological discoveries extend beyond simple revision of human chronology. If advanced civilizations existed during the Ice Age and were subsequently submerged, they may have possessed knowledge and technologies that exceeded what we attribute to prehistoric cultures. Their achievements might have been preserved in the mythologies and traditions of survivor populations who carried memories of the drowned cities. As oceanographic technology advances, more detailed exploration of the seafloor becomes possible. Remote sensing, autonomous underwater vehicles, and improved sonar systems are revealing previously hidden features that may represent the remains of lost civilizations. Each discovery adds to the growing body of evidence suggesting that human history extends much deeper and in more sophisticated directions than conventional archaeology acknowledges. The ocean's secrets remain largely intact, waiting for explorers with the technology and vision to uncover them. Beneath the waves may lie answers to fundamental questions about human origins, ancient technology, and the true scope of prehistoric civilization. The depths guard their mysteries carefully, but they also preserve them better than any terrestrial environment could achieve. In museums around the world and private collections of curious researchers lie artifacts that should and exist according to our current understanding of human history. These objects carved from stone, forged from metal, or crafted from materials that shouldn't have been available to their supposed creators, challenge the accepted timeline of human technological development. They suggest that advanced manufacturing capabilities existed millions of years before conventional science acknowledges their invention. The Antikythera mechanism stands as perhaps the most famous example of anachronistic technology. Recovered from a Greek shipwreck dating to the 1st century BCE, this bronze device consists of at least 30 meshing gears arranged in a complex system that calculated astronomical positions with remarkable accuracy. The mechanism could predict eclipses, track the movements of planets, and maintain a calendar that accounted for the irregularities in lunar cycles. When the device was first discovered in 1901, archaeologists couldn't understand its purpose or construction. The level of mechanical sophistication exceeded anything known from the classical world by more than a millennium. Similar gear trains didn't appear in European technology until astronomical clocks began appearing in medieval cathedrals around 1300 CE. Dr. Derek de Sala, Price of Yale University, spent decades studying the mechanism, concluding that it represented a tradition of scientific instrument making that was far more advanced than previously recognized. His analysis revealed that the device embodied mathematical concepts and engineering principles that historians had attributed to much later periods of human development. Recent CT scanning and 3D modeling have revealed even more complexity in the mechanism's design. The device incorporated differential gearing, epicyclic trains, and mechanical computation systems that demonstrate mastery of advanced mathematical principles. Its creators understood gear ratios, mechanical advantage, and precision manufacturing to degrees that rival modern capabilities. The London hammer presents a different category of anomalous artifact. This iron and wooden tool was discovered embedded in Cretaceous limestone near London, Texas in 1936. The stone formation dates to approximately 100 million years ago. Yet the hammer displays characteristics of 19th century manufacturing, including a wooden handle, an iron head with traces of sulfur and chlorine consistent with industrial production methods. Skeptics argue that the hammer became embedded in the limestone through recent mineral precipitation rather than ancient fossilization. However, the degree of mineralization around the tool and its position within undisturbed rock layers suggests a much longer period of burial. The artifact challenges basic assumptions about both human chronology and geological dating methods. Similar objects continue to emerge from supposedly ancient geological formations. The Kingoody artifact, discovered in Scotland in the 1840s, consists of an iron nail embedded in Devonian sandstone dating to 400 million years ago. The nail showed signs of corrosion and mineralization consistent with extended burial, yet its presence in such ancient rock defies explanation through conventional timelines. The Coso artifact, found in California in 1961, appeared to be a spark plug encased in a geode that had formed around it over thousands of years. Initial analysis suggested the object was impossibly old, but subsequent examination revealed it to be a 1920s spark plug that had been naturally mineralized through rapid geological processes. While not as ancient as first thought, the artifact demonstrates how quickly natural forces can create the appearance of great age. The Klerksdorp spheres from South Africa present a more enduring mystery. These metallic spheres, found in Precambrian rock formations dating to 2.8 billion years ago, display perfectly round shapes with parallel grooves carved around their circumference. The spheres consist of a steel blue metal with traces of nickel and other elements that don't occur naturally in such configurations. Over 200 of these spheres had been discovered in pyrophyllite deposits that formed under conditions incompatible with the presence of manufactured objects. The spheres are harder than the surrounding rock and show no signs of being natural concretions or mineral formations. Their precise geometric shapes and uniform construction suggest artificial manufacture, yet they predate the evolution of life on Earth by billions of years. Dr. Rolf Marx, former curator of the South African Klerksdorp Museum, studied the spheres for decades without reaching satisfactory conclusions about their origin. He noted that the objects display characteristics that suggest intelligent design, including balanced weight distribution and carefully planned geometric features. Yet their geological context makes human manufacture impossible according to accepted chronology. The Ica stones of Peru present a controversial collection of carved andesite rocks that depict humans interacting with dinosaurs, performing advanced surgical procedures, and using sophisticated technology. Discovered in the 1960s by Dr. Javier Cabrera, the stones number in the thousands and display consistent artistic styles and technical knowledge that spans multiple scientific disciplines. Critics argue that the Ica stones represent modern forgeries created for the tourist trade. The carving techniques and artistic styles don't match pre-Columbian traditions from the region, and some stones display information that couldn't have been available to ancient peoples. However, a few specimens have been recovered from undisturbed archaeological contexts, suggesting that at least some authentic carved stones exist among the suspected forgeries. The Baghdad Battery, discovered in Iraq in 1936, consists of a clay jar containing a copper cylinder and iron rod that together create a simple galvanic cell capable of generating electrical current. The artifact dates to the Parthian period, around 250 BCE to 250 CE, predating the supposed invention of electrical batteries by over 1,500 years. Experiments have confirmed that the device can generate approximately 1.1 volts of electricity when filled with acidic solutions like vinegar or lemon juice. While mainstream archaeology interprets the object as a storage vessel rather than an intentional battery, its construction closely matches the design principles used in modern electrochemical cells. Dr. Arne Egebrecht of the Reimer Museum in Germany demonstrated that replicas of the Baghdad Battery could be used for electroplating, depositing thin layers of metal onto other objects through electrical current. If ancient peoples understood and used this technology, it would revolutionize our understanding of their capabilities and knowledge. The Dorchester pot, discovered in Massachusetts in 1851, emerged from solid rock blasted during quarrying operations. The bell-shaped vessel, made from an unknown zinc-silver alloy, displayed intricate floral designs inlaid with pure silver. The rock formation containing the pot dated to 600 million years, yet the artifact showed sophisticated metallurgical and artistic capabilities. Similar discoveries include the Wolfsegg iron, a cube-shaped metal object found in Austrian coal beds dating to the Tertiary period, and the Salzburg cube, an iron artifact discovered in coal from the Miocene epoch. These objects suggest that advanced metallurgy existed during geological periods when complex life had barely evolved on Earth. The Nevada shoe print, found in Triassic limestone, appears to show the sole of a modern boot, complete with stitching marks and wear patterns. The rock formation dates to 213 to 248 million years ago, yet the impression displays characteristics that match manufactured footwear. While some geologists propose natural explanations for the formation, its resemblance to artificial objects remains striking. As we examine these out-of-place artifacts, patterns emerge that suggest our understanding of human technological development may be incomplete. While individual objects might be explained through misidentification, contamination, or fraud, the consistent appearance of anachronistic technology across different locations and time periods indicates that conventional chronology may require significant revision. These artifacts don't prove that ancient astronauts visited Earth or that time travel exists. They do, however, demonstrate that the story of human innovation follows more complex patterns than linear progression from simple to sophisticated. Advanced capabilities may have emerged, been lost, and re-emerged multiple times throughout human history, leaving behind traces that challenge our assumptions about technological development. Throughout human history, cultures separated by vast distances and centuries have preserved remarkably consistent accounts of powerful beings who observed and occasionally intervened in human affairs. These entities, known as watchers, guardians, or observers in various traditions, possessed knowledge and abilities far exceeding those of ordinary humans, yet maintained complex relationships with our species that shaped both mythology and history. The Book of Enoch, one of the most detailed ancient accounts of these beings, describes watchers as angels assigned to observe human development. According to the text, 200 of these entities descended from heaven to Mount Hermon, where they took human wives and taught forbidden knowledge to mankind. The watchers instructed humans in metallurgy, astronomy, cosmetics, and other arts that were supposedly unknown at that time. The offspring of these unions were the Nephilim giants, who possessed characteristics of both human and angelic nature. The text describes them as beings of enormous stature and appetite, who eventually became corrupt and violent, consuming resources at unsustainable rates and threatening the stability of human civilization. Their presence ultimately prompted divine intervention to cleanse the earth through a great flood. The Enochian account provides specific names and specializations for individual watchers. Azazel taught humans how to make weapons and ornaments. Samyaza instructed them in enchantments and root cutting. Armaros revealed techniques for resolving enchantments, while Barakijau taught astrology. Each watcher possessed expertise in different areas of knowledge that they selectively shared with human students. While mainstream religious scholarship interprets these accounts as allegorical teachings about the dangers of forbidden knowledge, alternative researchers note the technical specificity of the descriptions. The text provides detailed information about metallurgical processes, astronomical calculations, and other practical knowledge that suggests actual instruction rather than symbolic narrative. Mesopotamian traditions contain parallel accounts of similar beings known as the Anunnaki. Sumerian texts describe these entities as coming from the sky to establish order on Earth, teaching humans agriculture, law, and other foundations of civilization. Like the watchers of Enochian tradition, the Anunnaki are portrayed as having complex relationships with humanity that involve both benevolent instruction and problematic interference. The Sumerian king list describes rulers who reigned for impossibly long periods before a great flood disrupted civilization. These antediluvian kings are said to have received their authority directly from the Anunnaki, suggesting that non-human intelligences played active roles in governing early human societies. The list provides specific numerical data about reign lengths and succession patterns that suggest actual historical records rather than mythological invention. Dr. Zakaria Sitchin spent decades translating Sumerian texts and arguing that they described actual extraterrestrial visitors rather than mythological gods. His interpretations remain controversial within mainstream academia, but his detailed analysis of cuneiform texts reveals consistent patterns of non-human intervention in human development. Whether the beings were extraterrestrial, interdimensional, or simply advanced human cultures, the texts suggest that someone with superior knowledge shaped early civilization. Hindu traditions describe similar observer beings in the concept of the Devas and Asuras, cosmic entities who maintain surveillance over human development while pursuing their own complex political relationships. The Ramayana and Mahabharata contain detailed accounts of these beings intervening in human affairs, providing weapons and knowledge to chosen individuals while manipulating larger historical events. The Bhagavad Gita describes Krishna's revelation to Arjuna as an example of a cosmic being sharing knowledge with a human recipient. The text provides sophisticated philosophical and cosmological information that suggests the speaker possessed understanding far beyond that available to ancient human cultures. Similar accounts throughout Hindu literature describe advanced beings sharing knowledge with worthy human students. Greek traditions preserve memories of the Titans and other powerful beings who preceded the Olympian gods. These entities are described as possessing enormous size, extended lifespans, and knowledge that they occasionally shared with humans. Prometheus, who stole fire from the gods to give to humanity, represents the archetype of a benevolent watcher figure who violated cosmic law to aid human development. The Platonic tradition describes these beings as existing in a realm between human and divine consciousness. They possessed knowledge of universal principles and occasionally incarnated or manifested in physical form to teach selected humans. The Platonic Academy preserved techniques for contacting these entities through philosophical contemplation and mathematical study. Celtic mythology describes the Tuatha De Danann as beings who observed human development while maintaining their own sophisticated civilization. These entities possessed 4 magical treasures that represented mastery over different aspects of reality. When humans finally arrived in Ireland, the Tuatha De Danann retreated to underground realms where they continued to influence human affairs through careful intervention. The consistent characteristics of watcher figures across cultures suggest either common psychological archetypes or memories of actual encounters with advanced beings. These entities are typically described as possessing superior knowledge, extended lifespans, and abilities that transcend normal physical limitations. They maintain complex relationships with humanity that involve both beneficial instruction and dangerous interference. Modern UFO encounters often display characteristics that parallel ancient watcher accounts. Contactees describe beings who possess advanced knowledge and technology, yet seem primarily interested in observing human development. These entities allegedly share information selectively while avoiding direct intervention in human affairs. The parallels suggest either continuity in human psychological experiences or ongoing contact with non-human intelligences. Dr. Jacques Vallée has argued that UFO phenomena represent manifestations of the same intelligence system that ancient peoples described as gods, angels, or watchers. His analysis reveals consistent patterns of contact that span historical periods and cultural boundaries. Whether these represent psychological phenomena, interdimensional beings, or extraterrestrial visitors, the contact experiences follow remarkably consistent patterns. The watchers of ancient tradition possessed characteristics that suggest advanced scientific understanding rather than supernatural abilities. Their knowledge of astronomy, metallurgy, medicine, and other practical arts indicates technological sophistication rather than magical powers. Their selective sharing of this knowledge with humans follows patterns that suggest careful evaluation of human readiness for advanced concepts. Religious texts often describe conflicts between different factions of watchers, with some supporting human development while others opposed it. These accounts may preserve memories of competing groups with different philosophies about human interaction. The ultimate withdrawal or defeat of the watchers in most traditions suggests that direct intervention eventually ceased, leaving humanity to develop independently. As we examine the mythology of the watchers, we encounter the possibility that human development occurred under observation and occasional guidance from beings with capabilities far exceeding our own. Whether these entities represented advanced human cultures, extraterrestrial visitors, or interdimensional intelligences, their influence appears to have shaped both human knowledge and the mythological traditions that preserved memories of their presence. The Watchers remain active in human consciousness through the stories and traditions that preserve their memory. Their legacy suggests that human civilization developed not in isolation, but through complex interactions with intelligences that possessed broader perspectives on cosmic development and human potential. In the deepest layers of human mythology, before gods took human form and heroes walked the earth, there existed beings of incredible wisdom and power, whose very nature defied the boundaries between animal and human consciousness. These were the serpent people entities that combined reptilian characteristics with advanced intelligence, living in sophisticated civilizations that spanned continents and epochs before disappearing into legend and underground realms. The Nagas of Hindu and Buddhist tradition represent perhaps the most detailed accounts of these beings. Described as intelligent serpents capable of assuming human form, the Nagas ruled vast underwater and underground kingdoms where they maintained advanced technologies and accumulated profound spiritual knowledge. They possessed the ability to shapeshift between serpentine and human appearances, often appearing as beautiful men and women to interact with surface-dwelling humans. Ancient Sanskrit texts describe Nagaloka, the realm of the serpent people, as a place of incredible splendor, filled with jewel-encrusted palaces and gardens that surpassed anything found in the human world. The Nagas were said to be guardians of Earth's treasures, controlling precious gems, metals, and the waters that nourished all life. They possessed knowledge of medicine, alchemy, and magic that they occasionally shared with worthy human recipients. The Mahabharata contains numerous accounts of interactions between humans and Nagas. King Parikshit was killed by the serpent king Takshaka, leading to a great war between humans and the snake people. The epic describes the Nagas as possessing weapons and technologies that exceeded human capabilities, including the ability to manipulate weather and control natural forces through their will. Buddhist texts describe the Buddha's protection by the serpent king Mukalinda, who sheltered the meditating sage with his hood during a great storm. This account establishes a pattern of benevolent interaction between advanced human consciousness and the serpent people, suggesting that these beings recognized and supported spiritual development in humanity. Mesoamerican cultures preserved remarkably similar traditions in their accounts of Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent. This being combined serpentine characteristics with avian features, representing mastery over both terrestrial and celestial realms. Quetzalcoatl was credited with teaching humans agriculture, calendar systems, and architectural techniques that formed the foundation of advanced Mesoamerican civilization. The Aztec tradition describes Quetzalcoatl as a bearded, fair-skinned being who arrived from the east, bringing knowledge and establishing laws before departing with promises to return. The Spanish conquistadors exploited this tradition when Montezuma initially welcomed courts as the returning Quetzalcoatl. The mistake reveals how deeply the serpent god tradition influenced Mesoamerican consciousness. Maya texts describe the serpent deity Kukulkan in similar terms, emphasizing the being's role in establishing civilization and teaching advanced knowledge to primitive human populations. The Great Pyramid at Chichén Itzá was designed to create the illusion of a serpent descending the steps during equinoxes, demonstrating the advanced astronomical knowledge associated with these traditions. Egyptian mythology preserves serpent symbolism in the form of the Uraeus, the cobra goddess who protected pharaohs and represented divine wisdom. The serpent appeared on royal crowns as a symbol of authority and connection to cosmic forces. Egyptian texts describe encounters with serpent beings who possessed knowledge of the afterlife and guided souls through post-mortem transformations. The Egyptian pyramid texts contain references to serpent entities that existed before the establishment of human civilization. These beings are described as guardians of cosmic order who maintained balance between opposing forces in the universe. They possessed knowledge of celestial mechanics and spiritual principles that they shared with pharaohs to maintain divine kingship. Chinese mythology describes the dragon kings as serpentine beings who controlled weather, rivers, and agricultural fertility. Unlike Western dragons, these entities were typically benevolent rulers who maintained order in aquatic realms while supporting human civilization through careful management of water resources. They possessed the ability to assume human form and often interacted directly with Chinese emperors and sages. The I Ching contains references to dragon consciousness as representing the highest levels of wisdom and spiritual development. The hexagrams associated with dragon energy describe beings who have mastered the ability to move between different realms of existence while maintaining perfect harmony with cosmic principles. Native American traditions throughout the Americas describe encounters with serpent beings who possessed advanced knowledge and maintained underground cities. The Hopi speak of the Snake Clan, whose members could communicate with serpent spirits and access their wisdom. These beings were said to control underground water sources and possess knowledge of Earth's geological processes. Cherokee traditions describe the Uktena, a great horned serpent with supernatural powers who guarded sacred knowledge and treasures. This being was both feared and respected, representing the dangerous aspect of advanced knowledge that could destroy those unprepared to receive it. Similar traditions appear among numerous other tribes, suggesting widespread contact with serpent intelligences throughout North America. Australian Aboriginal Dreamtime stories describe the rainbow serpent as one of the most powerful creation beings, responsible for carving rivers, creating waterholes, and establishing the laws that govern both natural processes and human society. The rainbow serpent possessed the ability to travel between the sky and underground realms, connecting different levels of existence through its movements. The rainbow serpent traditions include detailed knowledge of Australian geography, water sources, and seasonal patterns that suggest practical information encoded within mythological narratives. The serpent being's association with both creation and destruction reflects the dual nature of advanced knowledge that could either benefit or harm humanity, depending on how it was used. African traditions describe various serpent deities and spirits who possessed advanced knowledge and maintained complex relationships with human societies. The Dogon people of Malai describe encounters with serpentine beings who provided astronomical knowledge, including detailed information about the star system Sirius that was unconfirmed by Western astronomy until the 20th century. West African Vodun traditions include numerous serpent spirits, Loa, who possess advanced knowledge and can be contacted through proper ritual procedures. These entities are described as ancient beings who witnessed the development of human civilization and maintain detailed knowledge of historical events and cosmic processes. Gnostic texts describe the serpent in the Garden of Eden as a benevolent being who offered humans knowledge of good and evil, challenging the authority of the demiurge, who sought to keep humanity in ignorance. This interpretation presents the serpent as humanity's ally rather than tempter, suggesting that serpent beings historically supported human intellectual and spiritual development. The Ophite Gnostic sects specifically venerated the serpent as a symbol of wisdom and liberation from ignorance. Their texts describe complex cosmologies involving serpentine beings who operated at various levels of reality, maintaining knowledge systems that transcended normal human understanding. Modern reptilian theories, while often dismissed as conspiracy fantasies, may preserve distorted memories of historical contact with serpent beings. The consistent appearance of reptilian characteristics in accounts of advanced non-human intelligences suggests either deeply embedded psychological archetypes or cultural memories of actual encounters. Dr. John Mack's research into alien encounter experiences revealed that contactees often described beings with reptilian characteristics who possessed advanced knowledge and technology. These modern accounts display remarkable consistency with ancient descriptions of serpent people, suggesting either continuity in human psychological experiences or ongoing contact with the same types of beings. As we examine the global traditions of serpent people, patterns emerge that suggest these beings represented actual intelligences that influenced human development over extended periods. Their consistent association with water, underground realms, and advanced knowledge indicates specialized roles in maintaining Earth's ecological and spiritual balance. The serpent people may have represented an alternative evolutionary path that explored different solutions to the challenges of conscious existence. Their apparent withdrawal from direct interaction with humans suggests either evolutionary progression beyond physical manifestation or deliberate concealment to avoid interference with human development. Modern genetic science has revealed a startling truth about human ancestry. We are not the pure descendants of a single evolutionary line, but rather the products of multiple interbreeding events between different human species that once shared our world. Our DNA carries fragments from Neanderthals, Denisovans, and other extinct human relatives, creating a genetic mosaic that speaks of a time when Earth was populated by diverse human species that interacted, competed, and ultimately merged into the singular human lineage that survives today. The discovery of Neanderthal DNA in modern human genomes revolutionized our understanding of human evolution. When the Neanderthal genome was first sequenced in 2010, researchers expected to find complete genetic separation between our species and our closest extinct relatives. Instead, they found evidence that modern humans and Neanderthals had interbred extensively, with non-African populations carrying 1 to 4% Neanderthal DNA in their genomes. This genetic legacy isn't evenly distributed across the human genome. Certain regions show much higher concentrations of Neanderthal DNA, while others appear to have been actively selected against during the hybridization process. The patterns suggest that some Neanderthal traits provided advantages to modern humans, while others proved detrimental and were gradually eliminated from our gene pool. Dr. Svante Pääbo of the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology, whose team achieved the first high-quality Neanderthal genome sequence, describes the discovery as fundamentally changing our conception of human uniqueness. Rather than representing a distinct species that evolved in isolation, modern humans emerged through complex interactions with multiple archaic human populations. The Neanderthal genetic contribution includes traits that influence immune system function, skin pigmentation, and even aspects of neurodevelopment. Some Neanderthal gene variants appear to provide resistance to certain pathogens, suggesting that hybridization helped modern humans adapt to new disease environments as they expanded across the globe. The discovery of Denisovan DNA added another layer of complexity to human genetic history. This extinct human species, known primarily from DNA extracted from a single finger bone and a few teeth found in Denisova Cave in Siberia, contributed up to 6% of the genome in some modern Melanesian populations. The high percentage indicates extensive interbreeding between Denisovans and the ancestors of modern Pacific populations. Denisovan genetic contributions include adaptations for high-altitude living that are particularly prominent in Tibetan populations. The EPIS1 gene variant inherited from Denisovans helps Tibetans maintain normal oxygen levels in their blood despite the thin air at high elevations. This genetic adaptation demonstrates how hybridization with archaic humans provided modern populations with traits that enabled them to colonize new environments. Recent analysis has revealed that Denisovans themselves were hybrids, carrying DNA from at least one additional archaic human species. This unknown population contributed roughly 5% to the Denisovan genome, representing yet another extinct human lineage that participated in the complex web of interbreeding that shaped human evolution. The ghost population DNA found in West African genomes suggests that additional archaic human species participated in these hybridization events. Dr. Arun Durvasula and Dr. Sriram Sankararaman of UCLA have identified genetic sequences in modern West African populations that don't match any known archaic human DNA. These sequences suggest interbreeding with a completely unknown human species that separated from modern human ancestors over 600,000 years ago. The ghost population appears to have been more genetically distinct from modern humans than either Neanderthals or Denisovans. Yet they successfully interbred with our ancestors and passed on genetic variants that persist in modern populations. This finding indicates that human evolution involved interactions between highly divergent human species over much longer timescales than previously imagined. Archaeological evidence supports the genetic findings by revealing sites where multiple human species lived in close proximity. The Skull and Khafre caves in Israel contain remains of both early modern humans and Neanderthals, with dating that suggests the two species alternately occupied the region over thousands of years. The proximity and timing create opportunities for interbreeding that genetic analysis confirms actually occurred. Similar evidence comes from sites in Eastern Europe, where Neanderthal and modern human artifacts appear in the same archaeological layers. The Bacho cave in Bulgaria contains evidence of technological exchange between the two species, with modern humans apparently adopting some Neanderthal tool-making techniques while introducing their own innovations. The hybridization events weren't limited to modern humans interbreeding with archaic species. Neanderthal genomes show evidence of gene flow from early modern human populations, indicating that genetic exchange flowed in both directions. Some Neanderthal populations apparently encountered and bred with modern humans before the major expansion of our species out of Africa. Dr. Cosimo Post of the Max Planck Institute has identified Neanderthal lineages that show clear evidence of modern human genetic introgression. These hybrid Neanderthals lived in Eastern Europe and Western Asia during the crucial period when modern humans were expanding into these regions. The bidirectional gene flow suggests sustained contact between the two species rather than brief encounters. The Red Deer Cave people of China represent another example of possible human hybridization. These archaic humans possessed a mixture of primitive and modern characteristics that suggest they may have resulted from interbreeding between multiple human species. Their recent survival until at least 11,500 years ago indicates that human diversity persisted much longer than previously recognized. Genetic analysis of the Red Deer Cave remains has proven difficult due to poor DNA preservation, but morphological studies suggest they possessed characteristics intermediate between several different human species. Dr. Darren Kernow argues that they represent evidence of ongoing human evolution and hybridization continuing into recent times. The Homo floresiensis population on Flores Island shows evidence of hybridization between multiple human lineages. Recent analysis suggests that these hobbits resulted from interbreeding between Homo erectus populations and another, more primitive human species. The complex ancestry produced humans with unique characteristics adapted to their island environment. Philippine discoveries have revealed additional evidence of human hybridization in Southeast Asia. Homo luzonensis shows characteristics that suggest interbreeding between different archaic human populations, while Homo sapiens populations in the region carry DNA from multiple extinct species, including Denisovans and unknown archaic groups. The implications of human hybridization extend beyond simple genetic mixing. The interbreeding events appear to have accelerated human evolution by introducing beneficial variants that were then selected for in hybrid populations. This process, known as adaptive introgression, may have been crucial for modern human success in colonizing diverse environments around the globe. Dr. Joshua Aki of Princeton University has shown that introgressed DNA from archaic humans continues to influence modern human traits, including disease resistance, metabolism, and even cognitive function. The genetic legacy of hybridization remains active in human populations, contributing to the diversity that characterizes our species today. Modern advances in ancient DNA extraction are revealing additional complexity in human hybridization patterns. Environmental DNA, recovered from archaeological sites, shows that multiple human species often occupied the same region simultaneously, creating numerous opportunities for genetic exchange. As we examine the time of the hybrids, we discover that human evolution followed pathways far more complex than simple linear progression from primitive to modern forms. Our species emerged through a process that involved multiple ancestral populations, extensive genetic exchange, and adaptive mixing that continues to shape human diversity today. The hybrid nature of human ancestry suggests that cooperation and genetic exchange, rather than competition and replacement, played crucial roles in human evolution. We are the descendants not of a single triumphant species, but of a complex network of interrelated human populations that shared their genetic heritage to create the modern human genome. In the scattered archives of local museums, newspaper clippings from forgotten decades, and the carefully preserved accounts of amateur archaeologists lie dozens of smaller mysteries that individually might be dismissed as curiosities, but collectively paint a picture of anomalous discoveries that challenge conventional understanding. These micro-stories lack the grand scale of major archaeological sites, yet their intimate detail and regional specificity provide glimpses into encounters between modern humans and evidence of beings who do and fit accepted categories. The Lovelock Cave Giants of Nevada represent one of the most detailed accounts of anomalous human remains in North America. In 1911, mining operations to harvest bat guano from the cave uncovered what appeared to be a prehistoric battlefield containing the mummified remains of red-haired giants ranging from 8 to 12 feet in height. The discoverers found evidence of a siege, with the giants apparently trapped in the cave and burned alive by attacking forces. Local Paiute traditions describe these beings as the Si Teka, cannibalistic giants with red hair who had terrorized the region for generations before the various tribal groups united to destroy them. The oral accounts provided detailed descriptions of the giants' appearance, behavior, and ultimate defeat that matched remarkably well with the physical evidence found in the cave. Mining engineer John T. Reed documented the discovery process, recording measurements and taking photographs of the remains before they were dispersed to various private collectors and museums. His records describe skeletons with massive skulls, robust bone structure, and preserved red hair that differentiated them clearly from any known Native American population. The Humboldt Museum in Winnemucca, Nevada, still displays some artifacts from Lovelock Cave, including a sandal that measures 15 inches in length, sized for feet far larger than those of normal humans. However, most of the skeletal remains have disappeared from public collections, fueling speculation about deliberate suppression of evidence that contradicts accepted anthropological narratives. The Dropa stones of China present a different category of anomalous discovery. In 1938, archaeologist Dr. Chi Pu Te Ai led an expedition into the remote Bayan Karayula Mountains, where they discovered caves containing 716 granite discs covered with spiral grooves filled with hieroglyphic-like symbols. The discs, each about 9 inches in diameter with a hole in the center, resembled ancient phonograph records more than conventional artifacts. Initial analysis dismissed the objects as curiosities, but in 1962, Dr. Sum Nui of Beijing Academy of Prehistory claimed to have decoded the symbols. According to his translation, the text described visitors from space whose craft had crashed in the mountains 12,000 years ago. The survivors, called Dropa, had been stranded on Earth and eventually integrated with local human populations. The story became complicated by the mysterious disappearance of Dr. Sum Nui from academic records and the apparent confiscation of most Dropa stone specimens by Chinese authorities. Only a few stones remained in museums outside China, and attempts to verify the translations have been hindered by the inaccessibility of original materials. Recent analysis of available Dropa stone fragments has failed to confirm the presence of meaningful writing, leading many researchers to conclude that the spiral grooves represent natural formations rather than artificial inscriptions. However, the complete disappearance of most specimens and the apparent suppression of research into their origins continues to fuel speculation about their true nature. The Paluxy River tracks in Texas created a sensation when local residents reported finding human footprints alongside dinosaur tracks in Cretaceous limestone. The discovery suggested that humans and dinosaurs had coexisted, contradicting evolutionary timelines that placed their existence millions of years apart. Creationists embraced the findings as evidence supporting young Earth theories. Dr. Roland T. Bird of the American Museum of Natural History investigated the site in 1938 and initially confirmed that some prints appeared genuinely human. However, subsequent analysis revealed that most alleged human tracks were either misidentified dinosaur prints, carved hoaxes, or natural formations that resembled footprints. The few potentially genuine human prints were found in rock layers that had been disturbed by erosion and redeposition. The controversy surrounding the Paluxy tracks illustrates the challenges of interpreting anomalous discoveries. While some evidence suggested genuine anomalies, the mixture of authentic and fraudulent materials made definitive conclusions impossible. The site remains active for research, but claims of human-dinosaur coexistence have been largely discredited. The Wisconsin giant skeletons represent a series of discoveries reported throughout the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Newspaper accounts describe the excavation of numerous burial mounds that contain skeletons ranging from 7 to 12 feet in height, often accompanied by copper artifacts and weapons sized for beings of enormous stature. The Lake Delavan discovery of 1912 reportedly yielded 18 skeletons with skulls that showed prominent brow ridges and elongated shapes that differed markedly from contemporary human populations. The Wisconsin Archaeological Society documented similar finds throughout the state, with consistent descriptions of oversized human remains found in association with sophisticated burial goods. Most Wisconsin giant skeletal remains were reportedly sent to the Smithsonian Institution for analysis, but records of their subsequent study or storage have proven elusive. Critics argue that the newspaper accounts were exaggerated or fabricated, while supporters claim that evidence was deliberately suppressed to maintain accepted anthropological narratives. The crystal skulls controversy demonstrates how modern technology can both create and resolve archaeological mysteries. These artifacts, carved from solid quartz crystal and claimed to be pre-Columbian relics with supernatural properties, attracted attention from both researchers and popular media throughout the 20th century. Scientific analysis using electron microscopy revealed that the most famous crystal skulls showed tool marks consistent with modern rotary instruments rather than ancient hand-carving techniques. The skulls appear to have been created in the 19th or 20th centuries, possibly in Germany, where advanced lapidary techniques were available. However, a few crystal skulls have been found in legitimate archaeological contexts, suggesting that while most famous examples are modern creations, some genuine pre-Columbian crystal artifacts do exist. The controversy highlights the difficulty of distinguishing authentic anomalous artifacts from modern fabrications. The Starchild skull from Mexico presents ongoing questions about human variation and possible hybridization. This partial skull, discovered in a cave in the 1930s, displays characteristics that differ significantly from normal human anatomy, including enlarged eye sockets, reduced bone thickness, and unusual internal structures. Initial DNA analysis suggested the skull belonged to a human child with severe genetic abnormalities, but subsequent testing has yielded conflicting results. Some researchers claim to have identified unusual genetic markers that don't match known human populations, while others maintain that all results fall within the range of normal human variation. The skull's unusual characteristics continue to generate speculation about human-alien hybridization, ancient genetic engineering, or simply rare medical conditions that produced extreme anatomical variations. Without more complete remains or clearer genetic data, the mystery remains unresolved. The Acambaro figures of Mexico consist of over 33,000 ceramic figurines discovered by local resident Valdemar Jules Rode beginning in 1944. The figures depict humans interacting with dinosaurs, advanced technology, and various creatures that don't match known prehistoric fauna. The style and subject matter don't conform to any known pre-Columbian artistic tradition. Thermoluminescence dating of some figurines initially suggested ages consistent with pre-Columbian manufacture. But subsequent analysis revealed that the testing samples had been contaminated with ancient pottery fragments. The overwhelming consensus among archaeologists is that the figures represent an elaborate modern hoax, possibly created by local artisans for the antiquities market. However, the sheer number of figures and the consistency of their style and subject matter suggests either an extremely elaborate deception or genuine artifacts that challenge accepted understanding of pre-Columbian knowledge and artistic traditions. The controversy continues among researchers who question whether all 33,000 figures could have been fabricated without detection. As we examine these micro-stories of mystery, patterns emerge that suggest our understanding of human history may be incomplete in numerous small ways that collectively challenge major assumptions. While individual cases might be explained through misidentification, fraud, or unusual but natural phenomena, their collective weight suggests that anomalous discoveries occur more frequently than mainstream archaeology acknowledges. Long before human consciousness emerged to record events and preserve memories, the Earth underwent transformations so complete that they erased entire chapters from the planet's history. Massive climate shifts, cosmic impacts, and geological upheavals rearranged continents, buried civilizations, and reset the conditions for life with such thoroughness that whole epochs disappeared beneath ice sheets, ocean sediments, and layers of volcanic ash. In these forgotten intervals lie the answers to questions about Earth's pre-human inhabitants. The Younger Dryas period, occurring roughly 12,900 to 11,700 years ago, represents one of the most dramatic climate reversals in recent geological history. After thousands of years of warming that had begun to end the last ice age, global temperatures suddenly plummeted back to glacial conditions within a matter of decades. Ice sheets advanced across continents that had begun to warm, and civilizations that may have been developing were suddenly confronted with environmental conditions that made complex society impossible to maintain. Dr. Richard Firestone of Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory has proposed that the Younger Dryas cooling resulted from cosmic impacts that occurred around 12,900 years ago. His research team has identified a layer of sediment across multiple continents that contains unusual concentrations of iridium, microscopic diamonds, and other materials that typically result from extraterrestrial impacts. The impact hypothesis suggests that a swarm of comets or asteroids struck Earth, causing massive fires, atmospheric disruption, and climate changes that triggered the return to Ice Age conditions. Such impacts would have been capable of destroying advanced civilizations while burying their remains under layers of debris and subsequent geological deposits. Evidence for the impact theory includes the extinction of numerous large mammal species during the Younger Dryas period. Mammoths, giant ground sloths, and other megafauna that had survived previous climate changes were eliminated rapidly across multiple continents. The simultaneous extinction of species that occupied different ecological niches suggests a global catastrophe rather than gradual climate adaptation. The Clovis culture of North America disappeared at precisely the time when the proposed impacts occurred. This sophisticated hunter-gatherer society produced distinctive stone tools and demonstrated advanced hunting techniques that had allowed them to spread across the continent. Their sudden disappearance from the archaeological record coincides with the climate reversal and megafauna extinctions of the Younger Dryas. Flood myths from cultures around the world preserve memories of catastrophic events that occurred during this crucial period. The Epic of Gilgamesh, the biblical account of Noah's flood, and similar stories from dozens of cultures describe global deluges that destroyed previous civilizations while preserving small populations that rebuilt society afterward. Dr. Robert Ballard's research in the Black Sea has identified evidence of massive flooding that matches the timeline of these mythological accounts. His underwater surveys have revealed ancient shorelines now submerged beneath hundreds of feet of water, indicating that catastrophic sea level changes occurred within human memory and were preserved in oral traditions. The flooding events would have been particularly devastating to coastal civilizations that may have developed during the earlier warming period. Rising sea levels, combined with sudden climate cooling, would have created refugee populations that carried memories of lost civilizations into the mythologies of their descendants. Antarctica presents perhaps the most dramatic example of how climate changes can bury entire continents beneath ice. During warmer periods in Earth's history, the Antarctic continent supported forests, rivers, and potentially advanced ecosystems. The gradual formation of the ice sheet over millions of years effectively sealed any evidence of pre-human life beneath miles of frozen water. The Piri-Reis map of 1513 appears to show Antarctica's coastline as it would appear without ice coverage, suggesting that ancient mapmakers had access to information from periods when the continent was ice-free. The accuracy of the map's details exceeds what should have been possible with the geographical knowledge available in the 16th century. Recent research using ground-penetrating radar has revealed that Antarctica contains extensive mountain ranges, valleys, and river systems beneath the ice sheet. These features create environments where life could have flourished during ice-free periods, potentially supporting ecosystems or even civilizations that are now completely inaccessible. The Arctic Ocean tells a similar story of dramatic environmental change. During certain geological periods, the Arctic was warm enough to support tropical vegetation and diverse ecosystems. The Lomonosov Ridge, now buried beneath Arctic ice, contains fossilized remains of temperate and tropical plants that indicate dramatically different climate conditions in the relatively recent past. Siberian permafrost has preserved woolly mammoths and other Ice Age fauna in such perfect condition that their stomach contents remain intact, revealing the vegetation they consumed before being suddenly frozen. Some specimens show evidence of rapid freezing that preserved their soft tissues, suggesting catastrophic climate changes that occurred within days or weeks, rather than gradual cooling over centuries. The preserved specimens indicate that Siberia supported grasslands and diverse ecosystems when the mammoths lived there. The sudden transition to permafrost conditions suggests rapid climate changes that would have been equally devastating to any advanced civilizations that may have existed in the region. Volcanic supervolcano eruptions represent another category of catastrophic events that can erase civilizations from the geological record. The Toba eruption in Indonesia, which occurred approximately 74,000 years ago, ejected so much material into the atmosphere that it created a volcanic winter lasting several years. Genetic analysis suggests that human populations were reduced to dangerously small numbers during the Toba event, creating a population bottleneck that nearly led to human extinction. If other intelligent species existed on Earth during this period, they would have faced similar challenges to survival, with only the most adaptable populations managing to persist. The Yellowstone caldera represents a similar threat that has erupted catastrophically multiple times throughout geological history. Each eruption would have been capable of devastating entire continents, while creating atmospheric conditions that would challenge the survival of complex civilizations anywhere on Earth. Ocean-level changes throughout geological history have repeatedly submerged and exposed vast areas of continental shelf that could have supported advanced civilizations. During ice ages, sea levels dropped by hundreds of feet, exposing land bridges and coastal plains that are now underwater. When ice sheets melted, rising seas submerged these areas, along with any evidence of human habitation they might have contained. The Doggerland region between Britain and continental Europe represents one such lost landscape. This area, now beneath the North Sea, supported forests and river systems during the last ice age. Archaeological evidence suggests that human populations lived in Doggerland before rising seas submerged the entire region around 8,000 years ago. Similar drowned landscapes exist off coastlines around the world, containing potential archaeological sites that remain largely unexplored. Advanced sonar surveys have identified what appear to be artificial structures on continental shelves, suggesting that sophisticated civilizations may have developed in areas that are now inaccessible beneath hundreds of feet of ocean water. Magnetic pole reversals represent another category of potentially catastrophic events that could eliminate advanced civilizations. During these reversals, Earth's magnetic field becomes weakened or temporarily disappears, allowing increased cosmic radiation to reach the surface. Such events could disrupt electronic systems and increase mutation rates in biological organisms. The geological record shows that magnetic reversals occur regularly throughout Earth's history, with some periods of rapid pole movement that could create particularly challenging conditions for technological civilizations. If pre-human intelligent species developed electronic or electromagnetic technologies, magnetic reversals could have caused widespread system failures that contributed to civilizational collapse. As we contemplate Earth before memory, we must acknowledge that the planet has undergone changes so complete that they could hide entire chapters of intelligent development. The surface we see today represents only the most recent page in a book whose earlier chapters have been torn out, burned, buried, and rewritten by forces beyond the control of any civilization. The evidence suggests that Earth has provided multiple opportunities for intelligent life to develop, only to have those achievements erased by cosmic impacts, climate catastrophes, volcanic eruptions, or other planetary-scale events. The pre-human inhabitants of Earth may have risen and fallen multiple times, leaving behind only the faintest traces of their existence, buried beneath the accumulated debris of geological time. Scattered across the ancient landscape stand monuments, whose primary purpose appears to have been the observation and calculation of celestial events. These stone circles, temple complexes, and megalithic structures demonstrate mathematical and astronomical knowledge that challenges our understanding of prehistoric human capabilities. Their builders possessed sophisticated understanding of planetary cycles, stellar movements, and cosmic relationships that enabled them to create precision instruments from massive stones. Stonehenge in England represents perhaps the most famous example of prehistoric astronomical achievement. This complex arrangement of trilithons and standing stones aligns precisely with solstices, equinoxes, and lunar cycles in ways that demonstrate advanced understanding of celestial mechanics. The monument functions as a three-dimensional calendar that tracks multiple cosmic cycles simultaneously. Recent analysis has revealed that Stonehenge as builders possess knowledge of a 56-year lunar cycle that enables prediction of eclipses decades in advance. The Aubrey holes, a circle of 56 pits surrounding the stone circle, appear to have served as a computational device for tracking this complex astronomical phenomenon. The accuracy of the calculations exceeds what should have been possible for Neolithic peoples. Using simple observation techniques, Dr. Gerald Hawkins of Boston University spent decades analyzing Stonehenge's astronomical alignments, identifying numerous correlations between stone positions and significant celestial events. His computer-assisted analysis revealed that the monument could predict eclipses, track planetary positions, and maintain accurate calendars based on both solar and lunar cycles. The builders of Stonehenge somehow determined the precise geographical orientation needed to maximize the monument's astronomical functions. The site's location at 51 degrees north latitude provides optimal conditions for observing the celestial phenomena that the structure was designed to track. This suggests either extraordinarily sophisticated geographical knowledge or guidance from sources with access to such information. Nabta Playa in the Egyptian Sahara presents evidence of astronomical knowledge that predates Stonehenge by thousands of years. This stone circle arrangement, constructed around 7,000 years ago, demonstrates understanding of stellar precession and seasonal cycles that enabled ancient peoples to navigate and maintain calendars in the harsh desert environment. The Nabta Playa stones align with the rising of Sirius, the star that ancient Egyptians associated with the annual flooding of the Nile, The alignment is so precise that it could only have been achieved through careful observation and mathematical calculation extending over many years. The builders possessed techniques for measuring stellar positions with accuracy comparable to modern instruments. Dr. J. McKeon Malville of the University of Colorado has shown that Nabta Playa stone arrangements track the precession of equinoxes. A slow wobble in Earth as rotational axis, it causes gradual changes in stellar positions over thousands of years. Knowledge of precession requires sustained astronomical observation spanning many generations and sophisticated mathematical analysis of the resulting data. The site also contains stone alignments that track the positions of specific stars that were important to the builders' calendar system. These alignments demonstrate that the ancient astronomers understood complex relationships between stellar positions and seasonal changes, enabling them to maintain accurate timekeeping despite the absence of written records. Newgrange in Ireland showcases precision engineering designed to capture specific astronomical events. This passage tomb, built over 5,000 years ago, contains a roof box that allows sunlight to illuminate the burial chamber only during the winter solstice. The alignment is so precise that the light beam travels 60 feet through the passage to strike the rear wall for exactly 17 minutes on the shortest day of the year. The builders of Newgrange demonstrated understanding of solar geometry that enabled them to calculate the exact angles and positioning needed to achieve this effect. The achievement required knowledge of the sun's seasonal movements, mathematical precision in construction, and engineering skills that rival modern capabilities. Similar precision appears in numerous other Irish megalithic sites, suggesting that Neolithic peoples throughout the region possessed sophisticated astronomical knowledge and the technical ability to incorporate it into monumental architecture. The consistency of these achievements across different sites indicates a shared tradition of astronomical observation and monument construction. The Great Pyramid of Giza demonstrates astronomical knowledge that goes far beyond simple solar alignment. The structure's orientation matches true north to within 3/60th of a degree, an accuracy that requires understanding of stellar positions and precision surveying techniques that should have existed in ancient Egypt. The pyramid's internal passages align with specific stars that were important in ancient Egyptian cosmology. The King's Chamber's southern shaft points toward Alnitek in Orion's belt, while the Queen's Chamber shaft aligns with Sirius. These alignments connect the pyramid to stellar patterns that the Egyptians associated with the afterlife journey of the pharaoh. Recent research has revealed that the pyramids as dimensions encode mathematical relationships that appear to be intentional rather than coincidental. The structure's proportions relate to the golden ratio pi and other mathematical constants in ways that suggest its builders possessed advanced mathematical knowledge. Dr. Robert Bovall's Orion correlation theory proposes that the Giza pyramids were positioned to mirror the pattern of stars in Orion's belt as they appeared around 10,500 BCE. If correct, this would indicate that the pyramid builders possessed knowledge of stellar precession and designed their monuments to commemorate or predict specific astronomical configurations. The Gozek Circle in Germany represents one of the earliest known astronomical observatories in Europe. This wooden palisade structure, built around 4,900 BCE, contains carefully positioned openings that frame the sunrise and sunset on winter solstice. The precision of the alignments demonstrates sophisticated understanding of solar cycles and geometric principles needed to create functional astronomical instruments. The Circle S design includes multiple circular enclosures with gates that align with different celestial events throughout the year. This complex arrangement enabled ancient astronomers to track seasonal changes, predict agricultural timing, and maintain accurate calendars based on solar observations. Similar wooden circle observatories have been discovered throughout Central Europe, indicating that astronomical knowledge was widespread among Neolithic peoples in the region. The consistent design principles across different sites suggest shared traditions of astronomical observation and monument construction. Machu Picchu in Peru contains numerous astronomical alignments that demonstrate the advanced knowledge of Inca astronomers. The Intihuatana stone serves as a precision sundial that tracks solar positions throughout the year, while various buildings and windows frame specific stars and constellations that were important in Inca cosmology. The site's location at high altitude provides exceptional conditions for astronomical observation, with clear skies and minimal atmospheric interference. The Inca chose this challenging construction site specifically for its astronomical advantages, demonstrating that celestial observation took precedence over construction convenience. The Temple of the Sun contains windows that frame the sunrise on winter solstice, while other structures align with the Southern Cross and other constellations visible from the Southern Hemisphere. The precision of these alignments shows that Inca astronomers possess detailed knowledge of stellar positions and seasonal changes. Angkor Wat in Cambodia demonstrates astronomical knowledge integrated with religious symbolism and architectural planning. The temple complex's layout mirrors cosmic geography as understood in Hindu cosmology, with the central tower representing Mount Meru, the axis of the universe in Hindu belief. The temple's orientation aligns with the spring equinox, when the sun rises directly behind the central tower when viewed from the western approach. This alignment connects the temple to cosmic cycles while creating dramatic visual effects that enhance its religious significance. Dr. Eleanor Manika of the University of Wisconsin has shown that Angkor Wat as dimensions encode astronomical data, including the length of cosmic ages, yugas, as described in Hindu texts. The temple serves simultaneously as a religious monument and a three-dimensional calendar that preserves complex astronomical and mythological information. As we examine these prehistoric astronomical achievements, patterns emerge that suggest ancient peoples possessed knowledge that extended far beyond simple observation of obvious celestial phenomena. Their monuments demonstrate understanding of complex cosmic cycles, mathematical relationships, and engineering principles that enabled them to create precision instruments from massive stones. The consistency of these achievements across different cultures and time periods indicates that astronomical knowledge was more widespread and sophisticated in prehistoric times than conventional archaeology acknowledges. The builders of these monuments possessed techniques for celestial observation and calculation that in some cases rival modern capabilities. The question arises, how did prehistoric peoples, supposedly lacking written records and advanced mathematics, achieve such precision in their astronomical calculations? The monuments suggest either that ancient human capabilities have been underestimated or that their builders received instruction from sources with access to advanced astronomical. Across the globe, carved into rock faces, painted on cave walls, and etched into desert surfaces are images that document encounters between ancient peoples and beings that do and conform to any known category of life on Earth. These petroglyphs, pictographs, and geoglyphs provide visual evidence of contact between humans and entities that possessed advanced technology, unusual physical characteristics, and capabilities that exceeded those of contemporary human populations. The cave paintings of Sego Canyon, Utah, depict humanoid figures with large, staring eyes and elongated heads that differ dramatically from normal human proportions. These beings are shown wearing what appear to be fitted garments or possibly spacesuits, with detailed decorative patterns that suggest advanced textile or material technology. The figures are painted alongside more conventional depictions of humans and animals, as if the artists were documenting different types of beings they had encountered. The Sego Canyon images date to different periods spanning thousands of years, indicating that contact with these unusual beings occurred repeatedly over extended time periods. The consistency of the depictions across different time periods suggests that the artists were documenting actual encounters rather than purely mythological beings. Similar figures appear in rock art throughout the American Southwest, with remarkably consistent characteristics that appear across different cultural groups and time periods. The beings are typically shown with oversized heads, large eyes, and often appear to be wearing some form of protective clothing or equipment. The Nazca lines of Peru present perhaps the most dramatic example of ancient ground art that appears to be designed for aerial viewing. These massive geoglyphs, carved into the desert floor, include geometric patterns, animal figures, and straight lines that extend for miles across the landscape. The designs are only clearly visible from altitudes that pre-Columbian peoples supposedly never achieved. The precision and scale of the Nazca lines suggest that their creators possessed techniques for surveying and construction that enabled them to create perfectly proportioned figures across vast distances. The lines maintain straight alignments and precise angles over distances that would challenge modern surveyors working without aerial reference points. Dr. Maria Reich spent decades studying the Nazca lines and arguing that they functioned as astronomical calendars that marked the rising points of important stars and constellations. Her analysis revealed that many lines align with celestial events that were significant in ancient Andean cosmology, suggesting that the creators possessed sophisticated astronomical knowledge. However, the perfect visibility of the designs from aerial perspectives raises questions about their intended audience. If the lines were created as messages for the gods or sky beings described in local mythology, they represent evidence that ancient peoples expected to communicate with entities capable of aerial observation. The Aboriginal rock art of Australia contains depictions of beings called Wangina that possess characteristics unlike any known human population. These figures are shown with large, round heads surrounded by radiating lines that suggest some form of helmet or energy field. They lack mouths but have prominent eyes and are often depicted with what appear to be halos or headdresses. Aboriginal traditions describe the Wangina as sky beings who came from the clouds during the dream time to shape the landscape and teach important knowledge to human populations. The beings are said to have possessed the power to control weather and water, and their images are still considered sacred by Aboriginal peoples who maintain traditional beliefs. The rock art depicting Wangina spans thousands of years and appears across vast areas of northwestern Australia, suggesting that encounters with these beings were widespread and continued over extended periods. The consistency of the artistic style and symbolic elements across different regions indicates shared cultural knowledge about these entities. Recent analysis using dating techniques has shown that some Wangina rock art is over 17,000 years old, making it among the oldest known depictions of non-human beings in the archaeological record. The age of the images suggests that encounters with unusual entities may have occurred much earlier in human history than previously recognized. The Tassili Nasr rock art in Algeria contains images that appear to show beings wearing some form of suits or protective equipment. These figures are depicted alongside more conventional human and animal forms, but they display characteristics that suggest they represent different types of beings altogether. The great god of Tassili is shown as a massive figure with a round head surrounded by radiating lines, similar to the Wangina of Australia. The being appears to be wearing some form of fitted garment and is much larger than the human figures depicted nearby. The image suggests that the artists were documenting an encounter with a being of considerable size and unusual appearance. Other Tassili images show figures that appear to be wearing helmets or headgear with features that resemble modern depictions of spacesuits or diving equipment. These beings are shown in various activities that suggest they were observed in different contexts over time. The age of the Tassili rock art, estimated at 6,000 to 8,000 years old, places these depictions in the Saharan region when it was still a fertile landscape with lakes and rivers. The environmental conditions would have supported large populations that could have encountered and documented unusual beings. Indian rock art contains numerous depictions of vimanas, the flying vehicles described in ancient Sanskrit texts. These images show disc-shaped and cylindrical objects with detailed features that suggest advanced technology. The Vimanas are often depicted alongside human figures, indicating that they were observed in relation to human activities. The rock art descriptions of Vimanas match the technical details provided in ancient texts like the Vaimanika Shastra, which describes different types of flying vehicles and their operational characteristics. The visual depictions appear to document actual observations of these devices rather than purely imaginative representations. Some Indian petroglyphs show beings that appear to be wearing equipment or clothing that differs from normal human garments. These figures are often associated with the Vimana images, suggesting that the unusual beings were connected to the advanced flying technology. European cave art from the Paleolithic period contains images that have been interpreted as showing beings with non-human characteristics. The cave paintings at Les Assises in France include figures with elongated heads and large eyes that differ from the typically realistic human depictions found in most Paleolithic art. The Lascaux cave paintings, famous for their sophisticated animal depictions, also contain a few human figures that display unusual proportions and characteristics. These beings are shown in contexts that suggest they held special significance for the artists who created them. Similar anomalous figures appear in cave art throughout Europe, often in association with sophisticated animal depictions that demonstrate the artist's ability to create realistic representations. The unusual human-like figures appear to be intentionally different, suggesting they represent encounters with beings that didn't conform to normal human appearance. Petroglyphs from Easter Island show beings with elongated heads and unusual body, proportions that match the characteristics of the famous Moai statues. The rock art suggests that the massive stone figures were based on actual beings rather than idealized human representations. The Easter Island petroglyphs include depictions of birdmen, hybrid creatures that combine human and avian characteristics. These beings appear in contexts that suggest they possessed special powers or knowledge that was significant to the island's inhabitants. Recent discoveries have revealed that some Easter Island rock art extends much deeper underground than previously known, indicating that the island's surface level has risen significantly since the images were created. The buried petroglyphs may contain additional depictions of unusual beings that have yet to be fully documented. African rock art throughout the continent contains numerous depictions of beings with characteristics that do and match any known human populations. These figures often display unusual head shapes, body proportions, and equipment that suggests advanced technology. The Dogon people of Mali maintain traditions about encounters with beings from the star system Sirius, and their rock art includes depictions that appear to document these contacts. The images show figures with characteristics that match the descriptions provided in Dogon oral traditions. As we examine the messages preserved in stone around the world, patterns emerge that suggest ancient peoples documented encounters with beings that possessed characteristics and capabilities exceeding those of contemporary human populations. The visual evidence, preserved in humanity's oldest art forms, provides a record of contact that spans continents and millennia. The consistency of these depictions across isolated cultures indicates either shared psychological experiences or actual encounters with entities that interacted with human populations throughout prehistory. The detailed and specific nature of many images suggests that the artists were documenting observed events rather than creating purely mythological representations. As we venture deeper into the mysteries surrounding Earth's pre-human inhabitants, a radical possibility emerges that challenges the very foundations of how we understand the origin and development of intelligent life on our planet. What if consciousness itself didn't evolve solely through terrestrial processes, but arrived here through mechanisms that operated on cosmic scales? The theory of panspermia suggests that life's building blocks, and potentially even complex organisms, have traveled between worlds throughout the history of the universe. Dr. Francis Crick, co-discoverer of DNA structure, became convinced that the complexity of genetic systems was so extraordinary that they could and have evolved naturally within the time frame available on Earth. His calculations suggested that the probability of DNA spontaneously organizing itself from random chemical processes was vanishingly small, even given billions of years of opportunity. In his book, Life Itself, Crick proposed that an advanced extraterrestrial civilization deliberately seeded Earth with the genetic material necessary for life to develop. This theory, known as directed panspermia, addresses the statistical impossibility of complex biological information systems arising by chance while explaining the remarkable sophistication found even in the earliest known life forms. The discovery of organic compounds in meteorites, comets, and interstellar space has provided substantial evidence that life's building blocks exist throughout the universe. The Murchison meteorite, which fell in Australia in 1969, contained over 90 different amino acids, including many that don't occur naturally in biological systems on Earth. The presence of these complex organic molecules in extraterrestrial materials suggests that the chemistry of life operates on cosmic scales. Dr. Chandra Wickramasinghe of Cardiff University has spent decades studying the composition of interstellar dust clouds and has identified spectroscopic signatures that match those of organic molecules and even bacterial cells. His research suggests that space is filled with dormant microorganisms that could potentially seed planets with life when conditions become favorable. The analysis of material returned from comets has revealed that these ancient objects contain sophisticated organic chemistry, including amino acids, nucleotide bases, and complex carbon structures that could serve as precursors to biological systems. Comets appear to function as cosmic delivery vehicles that can transport life as ingredients between different star systems over millions of years. Recent discoveries of extremophile organisms on Earth have demonstrated that life can survive in conditions previously thought to be completely hostile to biological processes. These organisms thrive in environments with extreme temperatures, radiation levels, and chemical compositions that exist in space and on other planets throughout the galaxy. Tardigrades, microscopic animals, also known as water bears, can survive direct exposure to the vacuum of space, extreme radiation, and temperatures ranging from near absolute zero to over 300 degrees Fahrenheit. Their extraordinary resilience suggests that complex life forms could potentially survive interstellar travel and seed new worlds with advanced biological capabilities. The discovery of potentially habitable exoplanets has revealed that Earth-like conditions may be common throughout the galaxy. The Kepler Space Telescope has identified thousands of planets in the habitable zones of their stars, suggesting that environments suitable for life may exist around billions of star systems within our galaxy alone. If panspermia has operated throughout cosmic history, intelligent life may have emerged on numerous worlds and spread throughout the galaxy through both natural and directed processes. Earth may represent just one node in a vast network of connected biospheres that have exchanged genetic material and even complex organisms over billions of years. The ancient astronaut hypothesis, popularized by authors like Erich von Däniken and Zecharia Sitchin, proposes that extraterrestrial visitors played direct roles in the development of human civilization. While mainstream academia has largely rejected these theories, they address anomalies in human development and prehistoric achievements that conventional explanations struggle to account for. The sudden acceleration of human brain development over the past 3 million years represents one of the most traumatic evolutionary changes in Earth's history. The tripling of brain size occurred much faster than typical evolutionary processes would predict, suggesting that additional factors may have influenced human cognitive development. Dr. Eugene McCarthy of the University of Georgia has proposed that humans resulted from hybridization between early primates and another species with characteristics that do and match any known terrestrial organism. His analysis of human anatomy reveals numerous features that are unusual or unique among primates, suggesting a mixture with a genetically distinct species. The human genome contains segments of DNA that appear to have been inserted rather than evolved gradually through natural selection. These sequences include regulatory genes that control complex developmental processes and appear to operate through mechanisms that are more sophisticated than those found in related primate species. Recent discoveries in genetics have revealed that horizontal gene transfer, the movement of genetic material between different species, may be much more common than previously recognized. This process could potentially explain how advanced genetic information from extraterrestrial sources might have been incorporated into terrestrial organisms. The presence of viral DNA sequences in human genomes indicates that our genetic material has been modified by external agents throughout evolutionary history. Some of these viral insertions appear to have played crucial roles in human development, suggesting that external genetic modification has been a normal part of human evolution. Ancient texts from cultures around the world describe gods or advanced beings who created or modified humans through direct intervention. The consistency of these accounts across isolated cultures suggests either shared psychological archetypes or cultural memories of actual genetic manipulation events. The Sumerian creation myths describe the Anunnaki combining their genetic material with that of existing hominids to create modern humans. Similar accounts appear in Hebrew, Egyptian, Greek, and numerous other mythological traditions, often with specific details about the process and purposes of human creation. Modern UFO encounter reports frequently include descriptions of genetic sampling procedures and hybridization programs allegedly conducted by extraterrestrial visitors. While these accounts remain controversial and unverified, they continue patterns of interaction described in ancient texts and mythological traditions. The consistency of reported extraterrestrial physical characteristics across different cultures and time periods suggests either shared psychological patterns or encounters with actual beings. The typical descriptions include features that would be expected in organisms adapted to different gravitational and atmospheric conditions than those found on Earth. Recent discoveries of organic molecules in the atmospheres of other planets and moons within our solar system suggest that complex chemistry capable of supporting life may be widespread. The presence of methane on Mars and organic compounds on Saturn's moon, Titan, indicates that the building blocks of life exist throughout the solar system. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence, SETI, has identified numerous unexplained signals and phenomena that could potentially represent communications from other civilizations. While none have been conclusively proven to be of extraterrestrial origin, the discovery of any confirmed signal would revolutionize our understanding of life's distribution throughout the universe. As we consider the cosmic origins theory, we must acknowledge that human development and the presence of intelligence on Earth may have resulted from processes that operated on scales much larger than our planet alone. The universe appears to be filled with the chemistry necessary for life, and the conditions suitable for biological development may exist around countless stars throughout the galaxy. If intelligence has evolved repeatedly throughout cosmic history, then Earth may represent just one example of a process that has occurred countless times throughout the universe. The pre-human inhabitants of our planet may themselves have been part of this cosmic network of intelligence, either as products of panspermia or as visitors from other worlds who played roles in shaping terrestrial evolution. The evidence suggests that we exist within a universe where consciousness and complex life may be much more common and interconnected than our Earth-centered perspective typically acknowledges. The mysteries surrounding pre-human intelligence on Earth may ultimately be solved by understanding our planet's role in larger cosmic processes that connect all potentially habitable worlds throughout the galaxy. Beneath the familiar surface of our planet lies a realm that remains largely unexplored and potentially inhabited by forms of life that developed independently from surface-dwelling organisms. The Earth's subsurface contains vast networks of caves, underground rivers, and geological formations that could support sophisticated ecosystems or even civilizations that have remained hidden from surface-based observations throughout human history. The discovery of extremophile organisms living miles beneath the Earth's surface has revolutionized our understanding of life as limits and potential habitats. These deep subsurface communities exist in conditions of extreme pressure, temperature, and chemical composition that were previously thought to be incompatible with biological processes. They derive energy from chemical processes rather than sunlight, demonstrating that complex ecosystems can develop completely independently from surface conditions. Dr. Tolis Onstedt of Princeton University leads research into the deep biosphere and has discovered microbial communities living over 2 miles beneath the surface. These organisms have been isolated from the surface world for potentially millions of years, evolving in complete darkness while developing unique metabolic processes that enable them to thrive in conditions that would be lethal to surface life. The biomass of these subsurface communities may equal or exceed that of all surface life combined, suggesting that the majority of Earth's living organisms actually exist beneath the ground rather than on it. This hidden biosphere operates according to principles that are fundamentally different from surface ecology, raising questions about what other forms of life might exist in Earth's depths. Mammoth Cave in Kentucky represents the longest known cave system in the world, with over 400 miles of surveyed passages that continue to extend into unexplored regions. The cave system supports unique ecosystems that have developed in complete isolation from surface environments, producing species found nowhere else on Earth. The blind fish, cave crickets, and other organisms found in Mammoth Cave have evolved specialized characteristics that enable them to navigate and survive in perpetual darkness. Their adaptations include enhanced sensory systems, modified metabolisms, and social behaviors that enable complex interactions despite the absence of visual communication. Similar cave ecosystems exist throughout the world, each supporting unique communities that have evolved independently from surface life. The Muvile Cave in Romania contains an ecosystem that has been sealed from the surface for over 5.5 million years, yet supports 48 different species, including complex predator-prey relationships that demonstrate sophisticated ecological organization. The Son La Caves of Vietnam extend for hundreds of miles through limestone formations that create vast underground chambers and passages. Local legends describe these caves as being inhabited by non-human beings that possessed advanced knowledge and occasionally interacted with surface-dwelling peoples. Traditional accounts from cultures around the world describe encounters with underground civilizations that possess characteristics suggesting non-human origin. The Hopi described the ant people who sheltered their ancestors during global catastrophes while living in sophisticated subterranean cities. These beings are said to have possessed advanced technology and knowledge that they shared selectively with surface humans. Hindu traditions describe Patala, the underworld realm inhabited by the Nagas and other serpent beings who maintain advanced civilizations beneath the Earth as surface. These entities are portrayed as possessing knowledge of architecture, metallurgy, and spiritual sciences that exceed those available to surface-dwelling humans. The Tibetan tradition describes Shambhala as an underground kingdom where advanced beings maintain knowledge and technologies that will eventually be shared with surface humanity when the world becomes ready to receive them. The kingdom is said to exist in cavern systems beneath the Himalayas, accessible only to those who possess the proper spiritual development. Modern cave exploration has revealed that underground river systems and cavern networks extend much deeper and more extensively than previously imagined. Ground-penetrating radar and seismic surveys have identified vast underground spaces that remain inaccessible to current exploration techniques. The Krubera Cave in Georgia extends over 7,200 feet below the surface, making it the deepest known cave on Earth. However, exploration has been halted by technical limitations rather than reaching the cave's actual bottom, suggesting that even deeper cave systems may exist beyond our current ability to explore them. Ocean floor explorations have revealed underwater cave systems that extend beneath continental shelves for potentially thousands of miles. These flooded passages may connect dry cave systems inland, creating vast networks of underground spaces that could support ecosystems or even civilizations that remain completely hidden from surface observation. The discovery of underground lakes and rivers has revealed that vast quantities of fresh water exist beneath the Earth's surface in forms that could easily support large populations. Lake Vostok in Antarctica, sealed beneath miles of ice, contains more water than Lake Ontario and may harbor unique forms of life that have evolved in isolation for millions of years. Similar subglacial lakes exist beneath ice sheets around the world, creating environments that combine the isolation of caves with the biological possibilities of aquatic ecosystems. These hidden water bodies may preserve life forms from earlier geological periods or support contemporary ecosystems that developed independently from surface evolution. The thermal vents found in ocean depths demonstrate that geological processes can provide energy sources for complex life forms without any dependence on solar energy. Similar thermal features exist in cave systems around the world, creating warm microclimates that could support sophisticated biological communities even during ice ages or other surface catastrophes. Geothermal energy sources in underground environments could potentially support technological civilizations that developed independently from surface-based energy sources. The constant temperatures and reliable energy availability in deep cave systems might provide more stable conditions for long-term civilizational development than the variable surface environment. Archaeological evidence occasionally emerges that suggests human occupation of cave systems extended much deeper and more extensively than conventional understanding acknowledges. The Denisova cave in Siberia has yielded human remains and artifacts from depths that indicate sustained occupation over extended periods, suggesting that prehistoric peoples may have maintained significant underground populations. Ancient mining operations have created extensive underground networks that demonstrate prehistoric humans' ability to work in subsurface environments. The copper mines of Michigan's Suinoa Peninsula show evidence of prehistoric extraction operations that removed millions of pounds of copper through underground workings that extend for miles beneath the surface. The expertise required for such extensive underground operations suggests that prehistoric peoples possessed sophisticated knowledge of subterranean navigation, ventilation, and structural engineering. These capabilities could have enabled them to establish permanent underground settlements that extended far beyond simple mining activities. Modern urban areas contain extensive underground infrastructure, including subway systems, utility tunnels, and basement networks that create vast subterranean spaces. These artificial cavern systems demonstrate how technological civilizations naturally expand underground when surface space becomes limited. If pre-human or early human civilizations faced similar pressures for expansion or protection from surface catastrophes, they might have developed underground cities that surpassed anything known from the historical record. The technical knowledge required for such construction might have been preserved by underground populations even when surface civilizations collapsed. As we consider the possibility of underground worlds, we must acknowledge that the vast majority of Earth as subsurface remains unexplored and potentially unexplorable using current technology. The existence of extensive underground ecosystems, energy sources, and living spaces creates possibilities for hidden civilizations that could have developed and survived completely independently from surface-based life. The underground world may harbor answers to questions about pre-human intelligence, lost civilizations, and alternative evolutionary pathways that operated beyond the reach of surface-based observation and documentation. The depths of the Earth keep their secrets well, but they also preserve possibilities that surface-based investigations could never discover. Within the spiraling double helix that carries our genetic inheritance lie sequences that don't match any known evolutionary pattern. These mysterious segments of DNA, sometimes called junk DNA by researchers who can't decode their function, may actually represent the most important evidence we possess of our true origins and the other intelligences that have influenced human development throughout history. Modern genetic analysis has revealed that less than 2% of human DNA actually codes for proteins, the functional molecules that build and maintain our bodies. The remaining 98% was initially dismissed as evolutionary debris, leftover sequences from our ancestral past that serve no current purpose. However, recent research has shown that much of this non-coding DNA plays crucial roles in regulating gene expression and controlling complex developmental processes. Within these regulatory sequences lie patterns that appear to operate according to principles more sophisticated than those typically found in natural evolution. Some DNA segments contain mathematical relationships, geometric patterns, and organizational structures that suggest intentional design rather than random accumulation of genetic material over millions of years. Dr. Vladimir I. Sherbak of Al-Farabi Kazakh National University and Dr. Maxim Amavakov of the Fizinkov Astrophysical Institute have analyzed the genetic code for patterns that might indicate artificial origin. Their research reveals that the universal genetic code contains mathematical patterns and symmetries that are highly unlikely to have arisen through natural selection alone. Their analysis identifies what they term arithmetic patterns within the genetic code that appear to be intentionally placed signatures rather than products of evolutionary processes. These patterns include prime number relationships, factorial arrangements, and other mathematical structures that suggest the genetic code may have been designed by an intelligence capable of sophisticated mathematical thinking. The human genome contains approximately 8% of its total DNA in the form of viral sequences that were inserted by retroviruses at various points throughout evolutionary history. These sequences, known as human endogenous retroviruses, HERVs, appear to have played important roles in human development despite their external origin. Some HERV sequences are essential for normal human reproduction and brain development, suggesting that viral insertions weren't simply parasitic infections, but contributed beneficial characteristics to human capabilities. The integration of external genetic material into the human genome follows patterns that suggest selective incorporation of useful sequences rather than random insertion. Dr. Luis P. Villarreal of the University of California has argued that viral genetic contributions have been a major driving force in human evolution. His research reveals that many human characteristics that distinguish us from other primates result from viral DNA insertions that modified existing genetic programs in ways that enhanced cognitive and social capabilities. The timing of these viral insertions correlates with major leaps in human cognitive development, suggesting that external genetic modifications may have accelerated human evolution beyond the pace that natural selection alone could have achieved. The insertions appear to target specific genetic systems involved in brain development and neural function. Human chromosome 2 presents one of the most striking examples of anomalous genetic structure in our genome. This chromosome appears to have resulted from the fusion of two separate chromosomes, creating a structure that doesn't exist in any of our closest primate relatives. The fusion event occurred relatively recently in evolutionary terms, yet it appears to have stabilized without the negative effects typically associated with chromosomal rearrangements. The genetic evidence suggests that the chromosome fusion was complete and occurred in a single event rather than through gradual changes over time. Such dramatic chromosomal reorganization typically produces individuals with severe developmental problems. Yet the human chromosome 2 fusion appears to have been immediately successful and was rapidly spread throughout the human population, Dr. Jeffrey Tompkins of the Institute for Creation Research has argued that the chromosome 2 fusion represents evidence of genetic engineering rather than natural chromosomal rearrangement. His analysis suggests that the fusion was designed to produce specific genetic advantages while maintaining chromosomal stability. The human brain, as rapid expansion over the past 3 million years, corresponds with the appearance of numerous genetic sequences that don't have clear evolutionary precursors. Genes involved in neural development, synaptic function, and cognitive processing show characteristics that suggest they were introduced or modified through mechanisms operating faster than typical evolutionary change. The FOXP2 gene, associated with language development, underwent rapid changes that distinguish human versions from those found in other primates. The modifications appear to have occurred suddenly and spread throughout human populations much faster than would be expected through normal evolutionary processes. Similar patterns appear in genes associated with tool use, social cooperation, and abstract thinking. These genetic modifications consistently show evidence of rapid change rather than gradual evolution, suggesting that human cognitive development may have been influenced by external factors that accelerated genetic modification beyond natural rates. Mitochondrial DNA analysis has revealed that modern human populations descend from a relatively small number of female ancestors, suggesting that human genetic diversity went through severe bottlenecks during our evolutionary history. These bottlenecks could have provided opportunities for genetic modification events that affected entire populations. The mitochondrial DNA patterns indicate that human populations expanded rapidly from these bottlenecks, spreading modified genetic information throughout growing populations in ways that would have amplified any beneficial genetic modifications that occurred during the bottleneck periods. Dr. Spencer Wells of the National Geographic Society has used mitochondrial DNA analysis to trace human migration patterns and has identified genetic markers that appear suddenly in human populations without clear evolutionary precedents. These markers suggest that human genetic modification may have continued throughout our dispersal across the globe. Ancient DNA extracted from archaeological specimens has revealed that prehistoric human populations carried genetic sequences that are no longer found in modern humans. Some of these lost sequences appear to have provided capabilities that exceeded those found in contemporary human populations. The Neanderthal genome contains genetic sequences associated with enhanced physical strength, cold adaptation, and potentially advanced spatial reasoning abilities. The loss of these sequences from modern human populations may represent the elimination of beneficial traits that were associated with Neanderthal characteristics. Dr. Carles LaLuisa Fox of the Institute of Evolutionary Biology has identified Neanderthal genetic variants that appear to have provided advantages in specific environments or activities. The selective loss of these sequences from modern human populations suggests that genetic modification has continued throughout human history, sometimes eliminating beneficial traits along with detrimental ones. Genetic analysis of isolated human populations has revealed the preservation of ancient DNA sequences that provide insights into human genetic diversity before modern population mixing occurred. Some of these populations carry genetic variants that appear to provide enhanced capabilities in specific areas including disease resistance, sensory acuity, and cognitive function. The Sherpa people of the Himalayas possess genetic adaptations for high-altitude living that enable them to function at oxygen levels that would be debilitating for most human populations. These genetic modifications appear to have occurred relatively recently and spread rapidly throughout Himalayan populations. Similar examples of rapid genetic adaptation appear in other isolated populations, suggesting that human genetic modification continues to occur through mechanisms that operate faster than conventional evolutionary processes would predict. Contemporary genetic research has identified ongoing changes in human DNA that appear to be accelerating rather than following typical evolutionary timescales. Some populations show evidence of genetic modifications that have occurred within the past few hundred years, suggesting that human evolution continues at an unprecedented pace. As we examine the whispers preserved in our DNA, we discover evidence that human genetic development has followed patterns more complex than simple evolutionary progression. The genetic modifications that created modern human capabilities appear to have occurred through processes that operated faster and more precisely than natural selection typically achieves. The DNA evidence suggests that human development may have been influenced by external genetic contributions that enhanced our capabilities beyond those that evolutionary processes alone could have produced. These genetic whispers preserve traces of the intelligences that shaped human development throughout our history, leaving signatures that we are only beginning to decode and understand. Throughout human mythology and religious tradition runs a persistent theme that challenges our understanding of the relationship between divine beings and human consciousness. Across cultures and continents, stories tell of gods who eventually became mortal, divine beings who chose to incarnate in human form, and cosmic intelligences that merged their essence with evolving human populations. These accounts may preserve memories of actual events when advanced beings integrated with human development in ways that forever changed both species. The Greek tradition describes the Titans and Olympian gods as beings who possessed immortal characteristics, yet maintained complex relationships with mortal humans. These entities could assume human form, interbreed with human populations, and transfer their abilities to chosen individuals. The resulting demigods combine divine capabilities with human limitations, creating beings who bridge the gap between cosmic intelligence and terrestrial existence. The stories of divine incarnation follow consistent patterns across different mythological systems. The gods typically possessed extended lifespans, advanced knowledge, and abilities that transcended normal physical limitations. Yet they chose to experience mortal existence, often sacrificing their immortal status to participate directly in human development. Hindu tradition contains detailed accounts of avatars, divine beings who incarnate in physical form to guide human evolution during crucial periods. The Bhagavad Gita describes Krishna explaining to Arjuna that divine consciousness periodically takes embodied form whenever dharma declines and adharma increases. This suggests a systematic intervention process, rather than random divine appearances. The avatar concept implies that cosmic intelligences maintain ongoing surveillance of human development and intervene directly when circumstances require guidance that exceeds normal human capabilities. The incarnated beings retain their divine knowledge while accepting the limitations of physical existence, creating opportunities for direct teaching and genetic influence. The Puranic traditions describe multiple cycles of divine incarnation spanning millions of years, with different types of divine beings taking physical form during various stages of human development. These accounts suggest that the incarnation process has operated throughout human history as a method for transferring advanced knowledge and capabilities to evolving human populations. Egyptian texts describe the pharaohs as divine beings who chose to incarnate in human form to maintain order and guide civilization. The pharaonic tradition wasn't simply political authority, but represented actual genetic descent from divine beings who had interbred with human populations in earlier epochs. The Egyptian concept of divine kingship involved specific rituals and technologies that allegedly enabled the pharaoh to maintain connection with divine consciousness while functioning in human form. The elaborate burial practices and pyramid technologies may have been designed to facilitate the consciousness transfer process that enabled divine beings to incarnate repeatedly. Hieroglyphic texts describe the Neteru as beings who ruled Egypt during the first time, before gradually transferring authority to human pharaohs through a process that involved genetic transmission of divine characteristics. The accounts suggest systematic hybridization rather than simple political succession. Celtic tradition describes the Tuatha Dé Danann as divine beings who initially ruled Ireland as immortal entities before gradually assuming more human characteristics. The stories suggest that these beings chose to become more human-like in order to integrate with developing human populations while preserving their advanced knowledge and abilities. The transition from divine to human status appears to have been gradual rather than instantaneous, with successive generations of hybrid beings displaying decreasing divine characteristics while maintaining superior knowledge and abilities. This pattern suggests a deliberate integration process rather than random interbreeding. The Celtic myths describe specific magical objects and technologies that enabled divine beings to maintain their abilities even after assuming mortal form. These items may represent actual technologies that facilitated consciousness transfer or genetic modification during the incarnation process. Norse mythology describes the Gear as divine beings who possessed extended lifespans and advanced abilities yet remained mortal and subject to eventual death. The concept of Ragnarok describes the twilight of the gods as a process where divine beings ultimately sacrifice their immortal status to participate in cosmic renewal. The Norse accounts suggest that divine incarnation serves larger cosmic purposes related to consciousness evolution and universal development. The gods choose mortality not as punishment, but as participation in evolutionary processes that require direct engagement with physical existence. The Voluspa and other Norse texts describe the gods as originally existing in purely spiritual form, before gradually assuming physical characteristics that enabled them to interact directly with the developing cosmos. This process mirrors accounts of divine incarnation found in other mythological traditions. Native American traditions describe star people and other cosmic beings who chose to incarnate in human form to guide tribal development and share advanced knowledge. These beings are said to retain their cosmic awareness while accepting the limitations of earthly existence. The incarnated beings served as bridges between cosmic intelligence and human consciousness, providing guidance that enabled tribes to develop sophisticated knowledge of astronomy, ecology, and spiritual practices. The teachings were transmitted through both direct instruction and genetic inheritance. Many tribal traditions include accounts of ongoing incarnation processes, with star people continuing to take human form in each generation to provide guidance and maintain connection between human populations and cosmic intelligence. These accounts suggest that divine incarnation continues into contemporary times. Christian tradition centers on the concept of divine incarnation in the figure of Christ, who is described as divine consciousness choosing to experience human existence while retaining connection to cosmic intelligence. The incarnation is presented as a unique event, yet it follows patterns found in other mythological traditions. The Christ figure combines divine knowledge with human limitations, providing teaching that bridges cosmic understanding and earthly existence. The resurrection narrative describes the transformation process that enables incarnated divine consciousness to transcend physical limitations while maintaining individual identity. Gnostic traditions describe numerous divine beings choosing incarnation to participate in human evolution and consciousness development. These accounts suggest that divine incarnation is an ongoing process rather than a single historical event. Modern UFO contact reports often describe encounters with beings who claim to be incarnated extraterrestrial consciousnesses living in human form. These accounts, while controversial, follow patterns similar to traditional descriptions of divine incarnation and suggest that the process may continue in contemporary times. The consistency of incarnation accounts across different cultures and time periods indicates either shared psychological archetypes or actual processes involving the integration of advanced consciousness with human development. The detailed nature of many accounts suggests they may preserve memories of actual events rather than purely mythological constructions. Genetic analysis has revealed that human populations carry DNA sequences that appear to have been introduced from external sources during crucial periods of human development. These genetic modifications could represent the physical evidence of incarnation processes that enabled advanced beings to integrate with human evolution. As we examine the traditions of gods becoming men, we encounter the possibility that human consciousness development has been guided by direct participation of cosmic intelligences willing to sacrifice their transcendent status to participate in terrestrial evolution. The incarnation process may represent a fundamental mechanism through which advanced consciousness seeds itself throughout the universe, ensuring the continuous development of intelligence and awareness. The divine beings who became human may have provided the genetic and consciousness contributions that enabled human capabilities to exceed those that evolutionary processes alone could have achieved. Their sacrifice of immortal status to participate in mortal existence represents the ultimate expression of cosmic intelligence as commitment to universal consciousness evolution. Picture the Earth, not as it is today, but as it was long before human eyes opened to its horizon. Forests stretched endlessly. Seas roared with creatures both familiar and alien. And somewhere in those ancient landscapes, intelligence may have already bloomed. Mainstream science tells us of 5 great mass extinctions: the Ordovician, the Devonian, the Permian, the Triassic, the Cretaceous. Each one reset the stage of life. Each one wiped clean entire families of species. And each time, survivors evolved to fill the void left behind. But what if, in one of those lost ages, intelligence had already risen? Not in the form of humanity, but as something else. The Permian extinction, some 252 million years ago, was the most devastating of all. Over 90% of marine life disappeared. On land, nearly 3/4 of species vanished. It was called the Great Dying, and in its wake, entire ecosystems were rebuilt from scratch. Scientists say that mammal-like reptiles dominated before that cataclysm. Some of them, like Dimetrodon or Gorgonopsids, bore strange resemblances to both reptiles and early mammals. Imagine if their evolutionary journey had not been cut short. Imagine if one branch had reached intelligence, developing tools, language, perhaps even culture millions of years before our kind. The fossil record, however, is unforgiving. Soft materials, tools made of wood or plant fibers, even early structures would not have survived the crush of geological time. Entire civilizations, if they existed, might be reduced to dust, buried beneath miles of sediment. Meanwhile, new evidence continues to unsettle the picture. In the last decade, researchers discovered fossils of Dicynodonts, strange tusked creatures, once thought to have died out, surviving far longer than expected. Their persistence suggests that even after extinction, survivors endured in hidden corners. Could other, more intelligent forms have clung to survival, only to vanish completely after the next catastrophe? Then comes the question of the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction, 66 million years ago, the asteroid that ended the reign of the dinosaurs. A fiery impact, tsunamis taller than skyscrapers, ash clouds choking the sun. The world plunged into darkness for years. Dinosaurs perished, but what of other lineages? Some small mammals survived, giving rise eventually to us. But what if there had been another survivor, one with a spark of intellect, a reptilian thinker, a feathered innovator, a creature whose memory has been erased, leaving only silence? Alternative theorists suggest that intelligence is not a singular event. It is a pattern. Given time and opportunity, nature may produce it again and again. But Earth's record is fragile. Entire continents have shifted. Mountains have risen and eroded away. What traces could truly survive from a civilization 100 million years old? Odd facts add weight to the speculation. Geologists once found spherical metallic nodules in coal seams dated to 300 million years. Others uncovered seams of rock marked by shapes that look eerily like tracks or carvings, though mainstream science dismisses them as geological quirks. But what if even a fraction of these anomalies hint at a deeper story? Disease, too, may have played its role. Viruses are as ancient as life itself. Entire species could have been erased not by fire from the skies, but by invisible enemies within their own bloodstreams. Even now, humanity remembers plagues that nearly toppled civilizations. How much more devastating would they be for a fragile, newly intelligent species? And so we face a haunting possibility that before our kind, another rose, that they gazed at the stars, that they built, dreamed, and feared only to be swallowed by catastrophe. The earth reset, erasing their memory, preparing the ground for us. The silence of prehistory may not mean emptiness. It may mean only that we are the latest inheritors of a world that has birthed and destroyed intelligence more than once. The story of Earth is not linear. It is a cycle of creation and destruction, of dawns and twilights, of species rising only to vanish. We stand today at the edge of a mystery. We know the fossil record. We know the bones and the strata. Yet we also sense what is missing, the gaps that whisper of things unseen. Echoes of something older than humanity ripple through myth and memory. The Sumerians spoke of the Anunnaki beings who shaped early life. The Hopi tell of worlds before ours, destroyed and remade. Hindu texts describe endless cycles of yugas in which civilizations rise, fall, and are reborn. Perhaps these are not merely stories. Perhaps they're fragments of memory. Not human memory, but the echo of something deeper, passed down through the fabric of existence itself. Meanwhile, geology reminds us of how much has been lost. Entire landscapes have drowned beneath oceans. Forests fossilized into stone, mountains crushed into dust. The earth is a master at concealment. If civilizations rose before us, their traces may lie at the bottom of oceans, beneath layers of basalt, or hidden under ice. We may never find them. But absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. The silence of the earth does not mean it has no story to tell. Speculation continues. Could intelligence have begun not once, but many times? Could it be as natural to the planet as forests, rivers, or storms? If so, then humanity is simply the latest chapter, not the first. Odd stories from archaeology ignite the imagination. Whispers of tools found in layers far too old, of maps depicting Antarctica ice-free, of ruins submerged beneath seas that have not seen daylight for 10,000 years. Each one fuels the idea that we walk upon the ruins of forgotten ages. But whether true or myth, these stories reveal something profound. They remind us that we are fragile, that civilizations are not eternal. That time erases more than it preserves. Meanwhile, astronomy widens the mystery. We search the stars for intelligent life, scanning signals from distant galaxies. Yet perhaps the truest question is not who lives out there, but who lived here before us. Imagine another species looking to the skies just as we do. Perhaps they asked the same questions. Perhaps they reached for the stars, but never returned. Their voices now silent, their ruins turned to dust. And still, in the turning of the earth, their echo lingers. The reflection is sobering. If Earth has birthed intelligence more than once, it may do so again after us. Civilizations may rise, fall, and be reborn in cycles we cannot yet grasp. Our place is not at the beginning. It is only in the middle. As the documentary nears its end, the question remains: who were the pre-human inhabitants of Earth? Were they creatures of bone and blood, erased by fire and flood? Were they myths given form, serpents, giants, gods? Or are they forever beyond our knowing, shadows that passed before memory began? The answer may never come, but perhaps that is the true gift of the mystery. It invites us to look deeper, to wonder, to imagine, and to remain humbled before the vast silence of time. For now, we walk in their shadow. Every step upon this planet is a step upon ancient ground. Every stone may hold a secret. Every wave may wash over a buried world. The earth has known countless dawns, countless extinctions, countless lives that came before us. And as we listen to the silence, one truth becomes clear. We may not be the first to walk here. We may not be the last. If you enjoyed this journey, consider joining us again as we continue to explore the forgotten mysteries of our world.